Okay. All right, we're going to begin our school board meeting. We're at the district office. Today's date is Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. In attendance, we have our board members, Nan Barton, Colleen Benally, Steve Black, Lori Mon. We have Superintendent Fitzgerald. We have Nelson Yelloman, Mary Shumway, board member, and also our business administrator, Tyrell Pemberton. And other staff is with us. Thank you. So we will begin by approving our agenda. So if I can get a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for April 10th, 2014.
Okay, do I have a second?
Aye. Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Already voting.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll proceed, and we will start with our Sound On Quest update. We'll turn the time over to the superintendent.
Thank you.
Hey, I cannot hear anyone if you've been talking to me, sorry. I was dealing with ACT, so it looks like you're muted now on my screen.
Time out, just for a moment.
Get the tech ready. Okay, thank you. All right, today I'm going to highlight the attendance initiative that we've been working on. As the board is aware, since the pandemic, we continually have been having challenges with student attendance in schools, and our number of students that have been chronically absent has increased. So as part of this initiative, I just want to highlight some of the outcomes from chronic absenteeism that have been associated with that for students long-term. It's low school attachment, delinquency, involvement with illegal drugs, emotional maladjustment, and family dysfunction later in life, including abuse and neglect, mental and physical health issues, and financial problems. So to really better support our schools that have been working on the initiatives, we held a 2-day functional behavior training for school teams. And this training included developing a multi-tiered system of support like we do for behavior and academics, specifically for attendance, and then also training on the functional behavioral assessment. And I have these materials here, so if you're interested in looking at any of that, you can definitely take a peek at that as well. Some of the comments from the training, we received a lot of positive comments from the training, so I just want to tell you a couple of them that I've heard. This particular person, this principal, said, it really empowered us to build knowledge in how to support parents, including how to use data with parents. And then another comment was, having all the schools throughout the district on the same page about attendance is powerful. And then another one is empowering, this was really empowering to teams, helping us take a huge step forward to target attendance in a positive way. So I just really want to thank Julie Holt for organizing the training and putting everything together, and our school teams who came and participated for 2 days out of the building, which can be challenging, and then the school staff that stayed behind and made it possible. We try not to ever take teams out for long periods of time, but that school staff that stayed behind and the substitutes that made it possible for them to attend that training and to continue to work on those plans. So.
Okay.
We're hopeful for improved outcomes.
Great. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you. We appreciate that. All right, we'll go to our board discussion items. So our first one is our school-based mental health services grant program. So Mr. Singer, you get to come to the front, please. And I think you have to push, Aaron, does he have to push the button to, yeah. Yes.
Green means go, right?
Green means go.
Okay, thank you, board members. I'm here to kind of fill in for our Student Support Services Director who was unable to make it today. And I apologize for some of the urgency of this matter. We just learned about this grant recently, but it does have a deadline coming up before, I think, the next board meeting. But this mental health services grant program, we are seeking the board's support in proceeding towards this. We feel like it'll be a good benefit to continue some of our services that were started with our first NYCP grant, but will be very helpful in continuing our traditional peacemaking program, our unity clubs, as well as training and helping to pay for the training of more school-based mental health professionals. We have any questions? There's no cost sharing agreement with this. The average size of awards is about $700,000 a year over 5 years, and we're thinking we do this to continue our our traditional as well as non-traditional therapy options and our partnerships with the many different agencies that we're working with. and providing the mental health support to our students.
And I just like would add to that, you know, some of our mental health supports that we have in place now are being funded by ESSER, and that ESSER funding is going away. So looking at this grant, this would be, if we were able to get this grant, it would help with some of those social emotional services that we provided in the past that we no longer will have that funding from ESSER to provide. There are also, with the legislative session moving, some items that were below the line are now included with WPU, with thinking that our at-risk funding would cover that, but it is not looking that way. So this would, knowing that we're going to have a shortfall in this particular area, that could be really helpful to apply for this grant and receive that additional funding to support social emotional health and mental health services in our schools.
Okay, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So with the current program, how successful has it been? I don't know who's taking the question.
Well, I don't have any data to present with you. Apologize for that right now, but I can tell you that I know that one amongst the many things that our peacemakers help with is attendance, which Superintendent just shared some information about, and we've been able to see that our peacemakers are making a positive impact there and helping students to feel more confident about being in school for a lot of different reasons, and more successful with attendance, as well as including their parents and their family members in that process. So that'd be one facet, and we need to train more peacemakers. We're kind of overloaded right now with the peacemakers that we have and the number of students that are requesting those services.
And how many peacemakers are there at each school, or is it just on the river schools?
So right now, we're contracting with those peacemakers as external providers through the ACE grant, and we have 2.5-ish that we're working with, but 2 that are consistently there, that are meeting with students, and the appointments are set up for them. We have reached out to other peacemakers, and some of our peacemakers have actually become our teachers with the Heritage Language Program. So any way we can get them involved in our schools is a plus. But we need to increase the number of those guys that are available to us. COVID hurt us a lot, and kind of took some steps back that way.
Now, I know, and I've heard of peacemakers on the river schools, and I've been wondering about the Ute Mountain students. Are they receiving anything?
The services
Similar?
are provided for them, and some take advantage of it, and some don't. We have had some success working with them, with our peacemakers. That's another challenge. We'd love to try to get somebody that from the Mesa that would like to get that training, and the cultural things are a little bit different, but if they could apply the same principles, it would be a good thing. But it's been a challenge. We've looked at that quite often.
I would like to see that, get the Ute tribe students involved in this program as well, because they are beneficiaries of the federal impact aid as well. So as a matter of fact, Navajo Nation has 2 council delegates that sign off on federal impact aid every year. Am I correct, Harrell? Mm-hmm. And I've been wondering if we ought to do one from Navajo Nation and one from the Ute Mountain tribe council member as well too.
We do we
do?
do get signs off from signatures from the Ute Mountain tribe also.
Okay, see, so we do have it. We do have that in place. So let's try to get our youth students involved in this program too. Thank you. I don't have any more questions.
I did have questions on what the context of the letter. I mean, as much as I'd like to sign off on it, I just needed a little more data. You said you have a deadline. When is that deadline?
So our the application deadline is May 15th.
Okay. And how long have you known that this grant?
About a week and a half.
Okay. If I could just get a little more data, and I understand it's going to be something that's going to have to happen quickly, and I understand it's going to be taking part of that other part, but we're not going to have to meet other criterias within the grant that's already in place, or are we going to lose anything, or is there anything else more to that we know right now?
Well, I think the goal of this right now is just to inform the board and try to get your support to be able to go after this grant.
Okay.
San Juan School District has been super successful in getting grants with the Department of Education. That being said, there is a chance that we wouldn't get funded,
Right.
but they seem to like us and like the work that the district does, and so we've been pretty successful so far. we would like to keep these, this grant would help us to keep these services going and also build more capacity to help us to continue these services on the future. You know, as the superintendent said, with some of the ESSER funding going away, it would be a good opportunity for us to continue those services and even build those.
Okay.
Yeah, so to answer that a little bit, this grant specifically is for continuing some of those services, but also for developing, depending on how the grant is written, but what we've looked at is how do we train more peacemakers, and that funding for that training would come from this grant. Also, potentially, if someone wanted to, we've run this grant before when we started our social work program to help pay for any schooling to complete a social work degree and work for the school district, so potentially that could be a part of this grant. I mean, we'll work with grant writers to get the grant written that best meets the needs of the district, but it could have a variety of components to it that allows us to continue that support we have now, but also how do we increase our capacity to have more people trained, so.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't say enough about that, but the training piece is definitely part of it. When I've spoken to paras and other folks who are working in our River Region schools who would like to go and get more schooling, but they don't have the funding, this could help provide that for them. So school counselors, social workers, we have a social worker position at Monument Valley High School. It's been open all year, it's still open.
Okay.
And so we'd like to be able to provide those opportunities and to help the schools continue to grow and improve.
If I could just, I don't know if Nelson's on the same page or not, but if I could just get a little more follow-up on it, I mean, as you continue, I mean, that would be great, just so I can have a better informed decision. That'd be okay.
One more question. Yeah, maybe in the future, if we can, when these grants are being presented to us, give us some example of some of the components that are going to be in these, so that way we have an idea that we don't have a duplication of other grants. And makes me wonder sometimes if we do have duplications in any grant.
Yeah, so we have the signed disclosures of non-duplication for each grant that we have. So we have the current NYCP grant and the ACE grant that we're running right now. There were services that were written into the ACE grant that were going to take over for the previous NYCP, and then when we got this other NYCP grant, we had to kind of discontinue some of that with the ACE and let the NYCP grant handle that for that very reason, so that we're not duplicating services. But that's always something that we have to keep a close eye on and make sure we're not doing that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate you coming.
I'm sorry. So how many pages is the grant application? Do you know?
We haven't got that far.
I mean, is it, so my questions are along the same lines as have been expressed already, but including the grant application might be good information for board members. And then just the examples, as Nelson was saying, but if I don't know if that can be emailed to us before the end of the, before the meeting and when we have to decide, but if it's a few pages, if it's 100 pages, it's going to be really difficult for us to get any idea of what this grant is. But I know in the past, the school districts we're the beneficiaries of lots of really good grants and a lot of money coming in. There's also been grants that have caused us to jump through so many hoops they haven't been worth it in the end. And how do you decipher and make a decision on those kinds of things, whether or not it's really beneficial or it looks like a lot of money, and then there's so much that we have to do that's not along the same lines as what we would have been doing without that money. Right. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, we've met as a team, the admin team with Tyrell and superintendent, Trevor, and as well as our grant evaluator. And if the grant dollar amounts are low, and then we take all that in consideration. If it's not worth the effort and time to put into it, then we wouldn't bring it to you guys. And as far as the amount of pages, those kind of they're pretty. As far as the standards, grant application, whatever you've seen in the past is going to be pretty similar as far as the number of pages, application, and things they ask for. But
as the grant, is it filled out and ready to go based on our approval?
No.
Okay, so you haven't worked on it at all?
We wouldn't start doing all that until we got your approval.
Okay.
Once we get approval, then we would
go after that and start putting the process together.
And our next board meeting is, remind me again, the date of the board meeting and then the grant application.
It's May 8th.
Due date. Okay, so we could choose to say, yes, we'd like you to move forward with the grant and then have it actually included on our May 8th meeting. That be?
Well, so this letter is to say, go ahead and try and get the
Right.
grant, not necessarily the grant's in motion. Once we say yes, then they could attach all that to the May meeting. I mean, you could easily attach the application to the May meeting, correct?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that would be what
Okay.
we then have said, yes, go ahead and go forward to get the grant, start the process, I should say.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay.
If I may, and I just want to clarify, the reason why I'm asking these questions is because you had a week and a half to prepare some kind of presentation, and I'm a little leery, and I know I'm probably not the only one, just signing my name on something that I don't know all the details or if there's any specifics or anything like that. So for me personally, and I'm sure if you agree, then great. I'd just like a little more context, and I understand the benefits, and I understand that it would greatly benefit the district, but just a little more,
Right.
more to it than
Yeah,
just
so
the
the goal
letter.
of this was, I don't know if you, we probably weren't here, for the first NYCP that San Juan School District had, really beefed up our efforts for social most important schools, and that's really why we're able to have school social workers in our schools. That program really helped train those folks and bring them about. And this one is really very similar, almost identical, different, I think it's coming from a different source, but a lot of it is going to be the same kind of a program as that one. So a lot of it is to increase our school counselors, our school social workers, as well as training, and as well as the other programs, peacemaking, unity clubs, stuff like that.
Okay.
All right, anything else? Okay, oh, go ahead.
I just have a question. So do you think that grant application will be prepared and ready to share with the board on May 8th?
We could sure work on it, and we could, if that's what we need to do, we can do that.
And, well, I'd say share it with whatever is prepared at that point, if we can have it shared with us at that point. Like Colleen, I just want to be informed and not say, well, I don't know what that was about. There was a little letter that said we agreed. When people ask us questions or just our own service as a board member, the more we know ourselves, the better we can serve the people who elected us, so.
Yeah, I think in the past, there's always been an abstract of the grant shared with past grants, and we can do that or
Okay,
more. if you-
thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, bullying curriculum, that would be, oh, Laura, are you joining on that one, or? I'm going to join in. Okay. Tell me how we say the name of that survey again.
Oveus.
Yes, I never can get it right.
It's okay. I couldn't spell it right, so that's
Right?
fine. So you've had a chance probably to review this. If not, we'll go through the slideshow. So we're just talking about what our bullying efforts and prevention looks like, and then also results from the bullying survey, the Oveus survey. The second slide has quite a bit on there. That's the most up-to-date definition of bullying that's identified and outlined by the legislature in law and code. If you'll remember, years ago, we used to operate under the fact that bullying had to have three things. It had to be repeated, it had to have intent, like with intention, and then involve an imbalance of power. Now you can see that the legislature has defined bullying a little more extensively. So we're operating in that. Policy is being updated to include the definition that we're required to. Do you have any questions about the definition of bullying here as presented?
I read this, but now that you mentioned what the old bullying, was the definition, is repeating part of it?
No.
That's what I thought. I
Not
didn't
the
remember
current one.
reading that. Okay.
Yeah, it used to be, but it's not.
But it's not, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
On the third slide, and this document we've had around in the district for several years. I remember operating with this document as a principal. But if we investigate at a school setting and we find that bullying is the case, we have to, by law, fill out this conflict prevention plan. And that is where we work as a school staff. We'd involve counselors or social workers and administrators to go through the plan to work towards preventing this bullying from continuing. And then by law, one person from the school with a witness from the school have to call the parents of both parties and inform them of what's happening. And usually this has happened as part of the investigation. We're calling parents along the way. But I think another critical piece of this is, and if parents are listening or community members are listening, that even if it's not found to be bullying, we want to address children not treating each other right. And we want to address children not feeling comfortable at school, or if they feel that there's harm or different things. So we'll work through that. And if we know of it, we will work to address it. So I just really suggest to advocate. If you're feeling that your child's being treated improperly, please let us know. We'll work to address that right away. Any questions about that form or that process? And I don't know if you want me to ask questions each slide or if you want to wait till the end.
You're good.
Okay.
Can
I just like having feedback in the moment.
Can I just
Yeah.
say I appreciate the positive aspects of this, teaching a new skill to replace. And I think sometimes kids don't understand that they're bullying, but then when you kind of help them see how their behavior could be interpreted as bullying, whether that was what they intended or not, in some ways that could help them. And especially finding out what the root cause is. I love that too. We're working on their mental health and giving them positive chances to make good choices.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Two things. I can't tell you how many times as an administrator, I was just joking. It was a joke. I meant it as a joke. And that's really hard because those are hurtful things. But then in the current definition, when it talks about how whether this behavior was allowed or not allowed, it can still be bullying. And so I think that's an important part to say it was interpreted as bullying. We need to prevent that and work forward. Awesome. Thanks for pointing that out. In the third slide, this is really what the Oveus survey measures. When we look at that, we're looking at bullying problems in the school, including the prevalence, the forms, the location, the duration, and the reporting of bullying. So all of that happens. Erin, are you able to advance the slide? Thank you. Yep. And then feelings and attitudes regarding bullying of the students. What does it look like, feel like? Do we think it's happening in the schools, those things? And then how others react to bullying. And then do students have friends or satisfaction or dissatisfaction with the school? Those are the four main purposes of the Oveus survey. So some data from our district on the fifth slide. We had this year 1,712 students respond. Are you able to advance? Thanks, Erin. And then we had, this is only administered to grades 3rd through 12th. We had 823 girls and 889 boys, and this was taken in February across our schools. In that, on the sixth slide, we can see some of our current trends that we have in our district that I thought were current or important to point out given our dynamic. How often have you been bullied in the last couple of months? I gave you the percentages there that came out from our survey, and then when I say that the trends are staying constant, each year in our report we can see previous year and current years. So that's where it's happened. We're right in those, probably within 0.1% to a full percentage point off from last year to this year. So when you're looking at that, you can see a lot of our students aren't feeling that they've been bullied ever, and then maybe once or twice, and then 2 to 3 times a month, all the way down to several times a week. And just to reiterate, please let us know if you're feeling that way. If students are listening, parents are listening, we want to address those things. We want to address those feelings. How often have you taken part in bullying another student? As you can imagine, our percentages drop there, except in the never category. And sometimes, like board member Barton points out, our students may not necessarily know that they're bullying, that they're causing that much harm. So we work to educate them and help them in that. And so you can see those percentages. And then what are some of the ways that are being bullied? I included the top 4 and then just a couple others that I thought were really important as far as percentages go. So verbal. And then exclusion. You can't be part of our group. We're not going to let you. Physical, whatever they interpret as physical being, whether that's pushing, shoving, touching, other things. And then some racial bullying is reported, and then cyberbullying. So there's our percentages that came out of this year's survey. Again, all within those very close realms. What do we do with this data now? In the report, it gives some suggestions, but then we can also look at those Vernon Hatch, a school psychologist here, helps make sure that this survey is ordered every year, that it's taken in, by the students every year, and then also shares those reports with the district leadership as well as the school leadership. So school leaders can look at their reports and see what their individual suggestions are. These are from the district. Under the how others react, we want to work on strengthening staff, student, and parent approaches to stopping bullying. That's what we've been advocating for, but it's really teaming around those things. And then reinforce with students the importance of reporting bullying. See something, say something along those lines, right? Just let us know. You've got a friend. This is not necessarily related, but I go to the Safe UT app. When a friend notices something's off or something's going on and they report it, it makes a big difference and we can get help for those students. Feelings and attitudes. We want to review with staff how bullying is affecting students' feelings about school. So look at those particular questions and then help students feel more brave about taking action to prevent bullying. So that's if you see something, say something, trusted adult, or even standing up. You know, we're not advocating fistfights or anything like that, but hey, that's not nice. Stop. And then with our friends and satisfaction, work for greater inclusion of all students, which is something we're working on daily. And then helping support peer groups for more inclusion. So if we need to, do we increase our social groups of certain students? Do we provide opportunities where students can interact together? So those are the now what's. And so it's kind of how do we make that happen? We are working on implementing or re-implementing some bullying prevention curriculum. We've had the Tough Kids Bully Blockers curriculum in the elementary schools for several years now. We're working to make sure that every staff member has a manual and also that we've provided a scope and sequence for that. At least 1 or 2 lessons a month where the classroom teacher will deliver bullying prevention curriculum lessons. So we're working on those right now. And then in the secondary setting, we're using the Olveus supports that they have, which is class meetings that matter for 6th through 8th grade or 9th through 12th. So we'll be utilizing those in our secondary schools, again, providing a scope and sequence and working on that. The first 4 lessons will come out of the class meetings that matter teacher's manual. We've been investigating and looking at those. So those are the first 4 talking about what is bullying, how do we report it, prevent it, those sorts of things. And then meetings throughout the rest of the year with the classroom and teacher. Questions or thoughts that you guys have?
I have a question. This, you're teaching the students what teaching them what the definition set by the legislation is? Because I mean.
That definition is updated, so we
Okay.
will need to make sure that we are teaching them what this new definition
Okay.
is and how it may be interpreted, like our actions, what that may mean to. And if you're joking around with a friend, but the friend is fine with you being fine with you joking, it still may be viewed as bullying because it's not appropriate behavior, right? So we just got to be careful through all of those and really make sure we're clear in what our students understand and know.
And like sarcasm, I know that's one of the biggest things that's
Yeah.
always misinterpreted, or it's either viewed as bullying to some person where it's not another. And we're clarifying that with.
We're
this.
working to
Okay.
clarify all of that. And it's really important when you talk about, look at our percentages too, verbal was our top.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
And a student could always say, I'm being bullied by an adult.
Sure.
And how do you deal with that?
We would have to take that super seriously, working to investigate, working with the administrators right away to understand. I imagine if there's accusations of staff bullying a student, we'd probably involve HR as well. We want to make sure that that's not happening and we address that right away. Our adults should be the people that keep students safe in the school, right? So we want to ensure that that's happening.
Yeah, it should be, a school setting should be a safe place for a student to come to be in that
Absolutely.
environment.
Yeah.
So it does need to be addressed, and with this new grant that Mr. Singer has presented, and this program should hopefully, and I do say that, I mean it, I hope it works hand in hand together to deal with these issues, because it's a serious thing when it comes to psychological thoughts and.
And that's the harder stuff to help a student work through.
Right?
Right.
A physical injury is temporary, right? Some of those psychological things are long lasting, so we want to address those right away. If we know about them, we want to address them.
Okay.
Okay, anything else?
I was just gonna follow up on that was, I know when I talk to a lot of the community or when they come and talk to me, it's, well, it was never taken seriously, or they were just siding with the administration, or they're gonna follow what the teacher says, they're not gonna believe what my child says, or so on and so forth. And so the parent always feels lost in what they're trying to do.
And are you talking about student-to-student bullying or staff-to-student?
Like anything,
Anything.
overall,
Okay, okay,
overall.
yeah.
And there's just always that thought or that phrase of, well, they're not going to help me if I go to them or something like that. So I always.
Sorry.
And I know you want to get specific with it, and so I guess that leads to my even further into my questioning is, well, do you think this will help that much more clarify things up for the students, the parents, as well as the teachers, and knowing where their roles are in that?
Absolutely. And I think that there's power in having open conversations.
Okay.
And then I also, just to address some of the first part of your question, I don't know of a single administrator within our district that isn't here for the betterment of children and working to help them feel safe and comfortable at school, but also to get an excellent education. And I know I've been in parent meetings just the last couple days, and I know how brave those parents are to come and talk about different issues. And so I would encourage parents to reach out to their administrators. They are here for their students. They really want to help them and benefit them. And it's nerve-wracking for everybody involved, but those are the things we need to know about so we can address them and work to help them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Laura, did you?
I just wanted to follow up on the bullying policy. As some of you may remember, we did bring that earlier in the school year to the school board, and then we took it back to our policy committee, where we worked on it with the model policy from USBE. We then had directors review it, and it's gone to principals at 2 separate principals meetings where they were asked to take it to their school community councils to review as well. So we were hopeful to be presenting this to you today. However, with the current legislative session, there was multiple things that were added that need to be put in our policy, social media, and then the bullying prevention. So we will be working on updating that, taking it to our next policy committee, and then hopefully getting that before the board before the next school year. So I just wanted to give a follow-up on where we're at with that policy.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Derek, are you ready to go over your spend plans?
Good afternoon, school board. So for the first one is number 3, the volleyball spin plan for Monument Valley. And that is just an amendment to the current one, and that is adding a summer camp that is $175. So that was the first viewing, and for review, if there's any questions, you can take those, or if you have questions at the second viewing next month, you can answer those. But it wasn't on there before, and it was included this year with the coach making that request.
Does anyone have any questions on that?
I have a question. I know I seen the flyer, but when is the camp? Is it during the summer?
Correct, yes.
I think that was in Provo, wasn't it?
It didn't say the
Lehigh,
dates.
I think it's
Lehigh, yes, Lehigh.
Yeah, Lehigh, and it's the Utah Valley one, but I didn't see the dates on that flyer
It's
as well.
June 11th or something.
I just want to make sure that we're in compliance with our 150-mile.
That was going to be my next
on that.
question.
Especially if it's out of school season.
Aren't those different, the 150-mile competitive games? That's completely different than the...
Yes, but it would show up on the activities. So you should see summer camps on the activity form that should come either next month or in June. You should see that.
Thanks. Any other questions on? Okay.
Thank you for clarification on that.
Okay, and then number 4 is for Whitehorse High School. There's a golf spin plan, and this is new to the school. So again, these might have additional costs that are higher at the beginning and then going back down. But again, this was presented as gaining interest. Several students have asked about it at the school, and so this is a proposal for that first view. And I don't know if there's any questions regarding the golf spin plan for Whitehorse High School.
I actually do, because I'm just thinking, I'll send the interest, but where are they practicing and all that?
And that has been part of the discussion on what the logistics would look like. So the AD, the principal, and I are kind of looking at how that's going to work. We talked about with San Juan High School having the same issue as whereas they would practice, and so we're talking about bus rides if they had to go to an actual golf course. So we're in those discussions right now, and I think a more thorough plan should be coming. But the interest was there, so we wanted to get these for at least on the radar for the school board and for the school as well to kind of see the to see if it's going to be able to go through with the school, but also looking at those logistics, and I think that plan will be forthcoming. But those have been in discussion as well as what that would look like, and then the time of day that would happen. And again, I think with the competitions they're okay, but it's just the practice parts and getting them actual practice on a course if that's the thing that they would need to have. So those are, hopefully a plan is being prepared, and I know we've been looking at the distances for the mileages, covering that and when practices would happen, because again, we're looking at the school day as well. So all those are kind of being factored in.
Okay, thanks.
And then for the girls' basketball, there was just an increase from the prior one, and that was an increase of $80, and that was a summer camp. The summer camp that was selected last year was different, so this is a change in one, so the increase is about $80 for that on the spin plan as well. So it's just a different basketball camp.
Any questions?
No.
And that's at University of Utah, right? Okay, that's what I was just
Yes,
looking for.
yeah.
Okay.
And those ones have the dates on there. I think it's 17th through the 20th, so.
Okay. I don't think so.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have school land trust amendments. So Julie?
Good afternoon. Blanding Elementary has been knee-deep in their current plan as well as they're looking forward to their next plan. So they are looking at a couple of amendments, and you can see that there's a lot of detail in what we provided for you. That goal number 4 is pretty extensive as far as their support with their consultant that they had originally planned. They have utilized part of that, part of those fundings to support as it was outlined, but as they went into their January 31st school leadership team meeting, they realized that their focus needed to be adjusted to really support the school level efforts within their goals. So their goals, they've got an ELA goal with graphic organizers to support EL and at-risk and their students with disabilities. They've got a numeracy goal, and they've also got an attendance goal. So in looking at that very carefully, they've been very thoughtful about thinking through this, and I won't go through each one of the areas unless you'd like me to break it down. We've put all of the numbers in there, but what they'd like to do with that first amendment for goal number 4 is they're really just adjusting the number of calls from 13 for consulting calls to 8, and then they're looking at the amount of time. They've done one day in August that was already with their school leadership team and their consultant, but they're looking at doing another day in May, which we'd need to adjust some for substitute pay and things like that instead of out of school. And then the biggest piece of this amendment really is the instructional rounds, providing instructional rounds. They really determined, they did that last year with their plan, and they determined that with their current needs, they really wanted to put that towards teacher support PD days, 2 of them in June, specifically working on curriculum and attendance goals and alignment of creating the culture for attendance. So what they would do is they would take the money that would have been spent for those instructional rounds and those other areas, and they would adjust that, which would come out to that $16,000, and adjust that towards those PD days. So that's a pretty significant adjustment and changes. Do you have any questions on that one?
Board have any questions?
Thank you for explaining that, because I was reading it and I wasn't sure what it meant, so
It's a
you
lot to
summarized it very
follow.
well. Thank you.
Even though we tried to outline it, there's a lot there.
Kind of in general, I spoke to you yesterday to try to clarify as I'm reading, because the spend plans, I mean, the trust land plans, spend plan too, but trust land plans are so there's so many of them, and they're difficult to understand. You know, it's not like quick reading if we want to know what's really going on. Trying to read between the lines or just read it carefully and understand what's going on at the schools. And I talked to the superintendent about them as well. And is my understanding, we will need to accept these or approve them today without any input. So I guess in general, is there, for a general question on our trust land plans, is there a way to see these way before they're final and they get to us and say, this is what we're doing? Because we don't, it seems in the past, and I get real forgetful about some of the things in the past, but it seems like we had more time some years. I think sometimes they were emailed to us prior, and or we could just communicate back and forth a little bit with the schools on questions that we had and clarification before they got to this point. So
Yeah, so the specifics of what I'm talking about right now are related to amendments for the current
Yeah.
plan. But what I hear you asking is really relation to the next section that Derek and I will be doing on the new plan.
yes, sorry, I kind of jumped ahead on that.
Which we really, we bring that letter to the board in the fall and then ask for your approval for setting the date for when you want those to come to you. So that really can come from your input as well. One of the reasons that we've generally done the April date is if they're approved in April and we get them to the state by the end of the year, then they're approving all of these for the entire state, the school trust. So if we do that and we've tried to get out ahead of it, then they will approve them, and we will start our new fiscal cycle in July with our regular district budget cycle, which is very helpful because we have people built into a lot of these plans, so salaries and benefits. So that really could be adjusted based on what the board would like. There could also be, I mean, the plans are public, they're on the website, the current plans, but then we could work with any of you to share what they're working on as they're working on it. Generally what we've done in the mountain region is we've done them in a Google Doc, and then we work on them with their council, we work on them together, and then we put them into the website. You aren't really able to see into the website until they're approved for the new year. So we could definitely have a system where we, put those in and shared the Google Doc or something like that. That wouldn't be a problem, so something to think about.
Thank you, and sorry for jumping ahead.
No,
on
that's good. I
the
just wanted to
amendment.
make sure that we were on the same page.
It's just they're a lot to grasp.
Yeah, there really is. So that's goal number 4 for Blading Elementary. Then there's another amendment for goals 1, 2, 3, and 4 that in general take in the salaries and benefits from each one of these areas that we're going to be carryover, long story short. So that would give them the additional money that they would put towards with this $16,000 to be able to have some teacher development days this summer, 2 of them, as grade level teams to support curriculum work and directly support their 90-day plans. So that's that second amendment.
Yeah, I just wondered if we can get on our monitor, the trust lands.
Yeah, the
There we
things that
go.
we're talking
Thanks.
about, yeah.
And Monticello Elementary also has a second amendment that they would like to share with you, and this is really just salaries and benefits accumulation that they would like to put towards their last. When I brought the last amendment, it was to support Zern, which is their Tier 1 that they're using, but the IXL licenses support Tier 2 and Tier 3, and also extension. So students can use it for reteaching. They can also use it for extension, if they want to go up into higher grades and do work. And so there would be a very different purpose, but they would like to use that additional $6,600 to put towards those licenses. And that's from Monticello Elementary.
Any questions on that? Okay, and then I guess you both are going to go over, you and Derek together, right?
Yes, so that's not enough. School math trust, we won't talk more.
Do you want to come up, Derek? All right. So now moving into the new plans for next year. And we can review this however you would like. If you would like us to go through and talk about, the goals for each one, if you have specific questions about goals, if you would like us to just tell you what is new, what some of them have changed, however you'd like us to approach it, we can do that. But the plans are ready for you on this document, and it's required that we also bring the signature forms so that you're aware that the council, who has been involved, and that the councils are involved in these plans.
Did anyone, I couldn't get any of them to open.
Oh,
Am I the
really?
only one that couldn't?
I got most of them except for
It takes a
the-
minute.
So it just said I couldn't access the site,
Yeah.
so.
I couldn't either.
From Bluff to Montezuma Creek to Navajo Mountain to Monument Valley and Whitehorse. Those are the ones I
So I was
couldn't
gonna say, I
access.
put them in a shared drive and shared them with anybody who had access.
I did it
on
on
the
a
mountain
different
region one, so I
computer.
don't know.
On this one, it's,
I get San Juan though, and I get San Juan and above, so. Those with,
Are yours
let's
in a
see.
shared drive? Did you go in and share them though?
Oh, I don't know.
On this
I-
computer, I'm not, well, maybe.
Maybe we
able
just
to get in
need
there?
Aaron
Can you
always
see?
there to.
You can see?
Yes.
You can, okay.
Yeah, does anyone want any of them open specifically?
I can go through and look and see if there's permissions that we need to adjust to.
I requested permission, but that's as far as I got.
Several of them, or just a couple that you can't?
I can say that I've used this computer for the district, and I've also, not recently, but used it for my own Google account. And when I first tried to access Whitehorse, it didn't work. When I made sure that it was my district, yeah, I've got access to all of those.
Then it
So-
probably did, okay.
So that's,
So it might be a Google.
that's what happened with
Yeah.
me. So, yeah.
I don't have a password.
Pardon me, but if you're trying to access it, make sure you're in your SJSD drawer.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I
Because
meant,
that's who
yeah.
you share it with. If you're on like a regular Gmail, like
It's asking me for a password.
you won't have the right.
Okay.
I signed in and it still denied me access to, yeah.
Which one are you trying to look at?
The river
Not a Google
regions,
one.
Okay, so the river
because I could
region
see
ones.
the mountain.
I put in a telephone.
Yeah, so did you want her to pull any of those up? Did you request that?
No, I actually was at the last SCC
Okay.
meeting for the Whitehorse, so I got to see a little bit of it. I didn't have anything, I don't think I had anything specific that I needed to ask.
Yeah, I was going to say I've done the same thing where I've attended community council meetings, so I feel like I am somewhat informed, and I make sure that I'm there as a observer, that I'm not trying to influence.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Right.
You'll notice a couple of things in the plans that are looking a little bit adjusted this year, that the state has really, they're good things, but they had to go back and relook at them. And that is, they're really trying to get schools to align, to write those
Okay,
SMART goals in the
cool.
beginning, and then align them through the academic area, so you should see language that is consistent through and not duplicate, but consistent through the measurement, through the action steps, and through the expenditures. So you'll see in the expenditures, they've asked us to put those parentheses around which of those action steps are going to be an expenditure, and then basically just copy that same action step and put it into the expenditure line. So you'll see a few of those formatting changes that have been requested, and they are good changes. They help us to be more specific and clarify. But the other one that they've asked us to do is on the additional funding. In the past, at the bottom, they've had, if your school has any additional funding, how will you spend it? That's gotten a little bit out of control statewide, as far as a lot of those items didn't always align with the goals that were actually in the plan. They were just, oh, this would be nice to have, so this is what we'll spend our money on. So those are the things that we've been bringing to you as amendments, that if they didn't have an expenditure line, we were bringing that to you. Now, what they'd like us to do, and you'll see that in these plans, is if there is additional funding that directly relates to a goal, it should be written in the action step as an action item at the bottom that says it will be used for this goal, for this purpose, and then in parentheses, what is the expenditure, what is the code, the category for the expenditure, whether it's salary and benefits, whether it's consulting fees, just so that there's more clarity in the structure. So those are a couple of things that you'll see a little bit different.
I must say, when when I was first on the board and these plans came to us, thank you for the work that you've done, because you've buttoned it down so well. And they're very thorough, they're very, I mean, we may not understand everything that's in them, but I feel like they're very thorough, very specific. I feel like a lot of times we got those and had to send them back to focus in, and so, thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you. Anything else?
I did have a question as to, are we meeting a lot of these goals? I mean, we set them, and I guess overall, and both of you can answer that question, from your schools that you guys oversee, have we been able to meet a lot of our goals? I mean, whether we're right on at the middle of the year, or how much things have changed from the beginning to the middle of the year?
I appreciate that question, because if the money, if we're not having an impact,
Right.
then we need to look at different goals, right? So we shared, I believe, maybe it was last month or the month before, the final report form. And on that document is a breakdown of each one of the goals and where their schools had met them or they had not met them. So for the mountain region, I'm just from memory, I think there were 11 of the 15 that we had, just right around there, that had been met for the region wide, so.
And yeah, just to speak to that, we go through those as well and look at some that are partially met. So if it lists K through 5 and some schools meet, or some grades meet those, we put partially met, where it kind of gives us a pointer on where to specify on where that extra assistance needs help for the next time. So it kind of is an ongoing living document a lot of the time, and so we're looking at that data when we're going throughout this entire process.
Okay.
And what happens to those that don't make it? Do you continue to work with them, or do you just move on?
So really, the support is LEA, is based within our LEA to support them if they don't make it. We look at why aren't they making it, and there could be a lot of reasons. Whether was the goal written in a good way, was the measurement chosen to really support the goal, or is there a breakdown in the action steps and the implementation? So those are really things that we have to support at the district and the school level. The state has their guidelines as far as, our carryover and whether we meet those goals or not, and they are starting to cut back on funding for schools for 2 or 3 years in a row that do not meet that criteria. So.
And are there penalties for schools or districts that don't make it? Penalties from the state?
Only the fiscal penalties that would relate to whether they have that 10% carryover or not, but not necessarily tied to the goals. Those are really just handled at the school and district level.
Okay.
And you said the amendment was part of that, and that's what you're doing with the Monticello and Blanding amendments, is because their mid-year, their goal changed from the beginning year to the mid-year, and hence that's why they're.
So if they didn't do that, they would exceed their carryover, and really School Land Trust, really they want it spent for the students for the current year. That's their goal of that funding.
Good job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the information.
Thank you.
And the access should be updated. We tried it again, so.
All right, thank you.
And you can reach out to either of us if you read through them and have questions.
Okay. We will go over our legislative updates before we hit our board reports, our employee reports.
Thanks, Lori. So the USB website, the attachment there is to the bill book. So they've just published the bill book USBE has, and this gives you an overview of all the legislation that passed that will impact our school district. And really a large part of that is going to be updating policy. So I've gone through all the House bills, still working on the Senate bills to make a list of what are our policies that need to be updated, what are the actions that need to be taken, what additional training are we being required to do, and what is just awareness that we need to make sure our directors are aware of that shares that out to our other employees. The one thing I did want to highlight, because this is a continued discussion this year and directly impacts our school district particularly, as well as other districts, but also could have a fiscal impact on us, and that's House Bill 84, which is the school safety amendments. So I just wanted to highlight some of the things that came out of that legislation, what was passed. And I also want to let you know, we have been working with the state, both the school safety center who came down for a visit to our schools to meet with Navajo Nation PD, Sheriff Lacey. We also got input from principals and some of the challenges they've had so that they could better understand the context of the tribal jurisdiction and how that impacts our River Region schools. We also have an upcoming meeting with the new state security chief, Chief Pennington, who, the other person in his department right now as they're hiring is Sergeant Barnes, and he came on that visit as well. So we have a follow-up meeting with them to kind of discuss some of those direct challenges for our schools and what the mandates might look like and how we can work around that. So just know that's going on. So just a couple of the requirements that I'll just highlight that are coming out of this legislation. One is having a panic alert system for each teacher in their classroom. They haven't given us the criteria for that, so we're not sure if our voice enhancement systems will meet that criteria or it'll have to look different. Also making sure we have cameras, again, looking for guidelines from the state on that. The state is also looking, they will approve an early warning system program for us to use. We'll have to have a district school safety and security director that has some very specific roles as we oversee school safety. There will be a school safety assessment in coordination with the county security chief that's going to be put in place, and those assessments have to be completed for each of our schools by December 31st. And they will, that's a confidential document, and that assessment will give recommendations of what we need to do for each of our schools individually. And then we're required to implement those recommendations to some level. There will be some grant funding for some of those recommendations as well. And then mandatory staffing of either a school guardian, an SRO, or an armed security guard in each of our schools. And that's the one I think that is most challenging as we look at a fiscal impact and jurisdictionally what that could look like. And then there's also a component that has to do with parental updates on bullying and a parent portal for notification, and then also reporting to the state for substantial threat reporting requirements. So there's a lot in this that's going to require us to make some adjustments and do some things. We, of course, are always trying to improve school safety and making our schools safer. Part of the visit from the School Safety Center is we did walk through a number of our buildings and got recommendations on anything that we can do to improve. So we are working on that feedback as well as part of our safety plan. One of the things that we're rolling out just with the district team is our incident command system. So that goes through if an incident occurs, what are those roles in an incident command system? And we follow the FEMA model with that of what each role is and how do we support that whole system when some event happens. And that's just not, that could be any type of incident. That could be an evacuation for something, or it could be a shelter in place. There's a lot of different types of incident, but that's really what that is. So we'll be doing some continued training on that with principals and then moving that system out as well from there. So that is the big legislative update on that component. I left that individual page separate for you to look at, but just know that bill book covers everything. If you are hearing about something in legislation, you just want a quick glance, that bill book is great. It gives you a summary, and then also tells you the requirements for the LEA of what we're required to do for that particular piece of legislation.
Is that just on the USBA website?
Yep, the link is right on the agenda. So I don't know if you should be able to click on it.
Oh,
That should
yep.
take you directly to the bill book. Every year, USB publishes a bill book that gives us that summary. Some of these bills are going to need quite a bit of guidance, like what was the intent of this legislation, because it's not direct. So we'll be getting additional guidance from USBE, and some of these things will require code, so we'll be waiting for that, and model policies, so we'll be waiting for some of that as well. So some of the legislation has a May 1 start date, so we're working on getting those things in place as we can, and then some of the legislation, a lot of it is July 1, although the school fees change will be a year delayed, so some of them have a little bit of a delay, but most of them are coming up in the next few months.
Does anyone have any questions about this? Or comments?
Question. Since the recent incident at Monument Valley High School with the lockdown, I was informed that the Incident Command Center is here at the district office. Is there a particular reason why it's here rather than where the situation is?
Yes, so incident command is in a different location because depending on the incident at that school, you may be evacuating the school, you might be in a lockdown situation, you might be in a situation where you can't communicate from the school building. So incident command, those different roles in incident command happen at a different location. Part of the incident command system does have in the instructions that this particular person in their role will go to on-site or may go to close to the site. But as you're aware with the Monument Valley incidents, when those things occur, no one's allowed onto the property at that time. So while the administrator is part of that incident command, sometimes they're in a situation where they're not even available to be, depending on the circumstances of the incident. They may have a role or they may not. I mean, that's kind of how these situations can unravel. How, I don't know whether I'm missing the word for that, but how they play out, it could look very different depending on the situation. So when you look at incident command, you're looking at how does the district and the overall system support an individual building to be able to manage that system, as well as coordinating with, if it's law enforcement, emergency personnel, medical personnel, all of those components as part of that.
Who decides that? Is it you, the superintendent, that decides that the incident command should be here, or is this a recommendation from law enforcement?
It's a recommendation from law enforcement, not necessarily where we put it, but to have a location. So, and I would be happy to come back to the board with our incident command system and review that with you, maybe in May board meeting, so you can kind of see what that looks like. I can tell you that, our incident command, not everyone may be here. So when we say incident command, you might have one director that has a role that might be off-site in another location, and that's okay. They can still do their role from that location. You may have a director who's not even here. They may be on vacation or on sick leave or something. So those roles can easily be replaced by another director that we can put in that role. It's bulleted out of what that role entails, so anyone else can jump in and do that role at any time. I will say, what we have learned from this process and the debriefing that we've had, and just so you know, we did review this incident command system with the school safety center when they came. We went through each step of that, and they gave us some feedback on that. We also are using the model that is specific to schools when you look at incident command, and have set up our model in the same type of model that other schools would set it up. But basically, if possible, we've set an incident command up in the superintendent's office because we can close those double doors. We have my office. We have Eva in her office who stays on the phone with the school continually, doesn't get off the line. And then we have Laura's office as the communication center. And then we also, because one thing we found out is that the law enforcement liaison, their radios don't work in some of our buildings. So we have moved, set up in that back copy room, double monitors so that IT can come over and set up access to the cameras, that the law enforcement liaison, his radio, he or she, their radio will work in that back office, as well as having the monitors available to use for looking at security cameras in real time.
I understand all the arrangements and the need for it to be here, but I also disagree that it should be here rather than at either Monument Valley, Whitehorse, or if Navajo Mountain, that the incident command ought to be next door to the elementary school or the high school, vice versa, wherever the situation is, because that is where, what is the saying, that's where the boots are on the ground there. And you just said it, there's difficulties of electronic communications and devices. That's one reason why it should be next door. This is just me speaking, but.
So maybe let me provide some clarity to that. So in an incident where you have law enforcement come in, they are going to take command of the incident at that site. So they will have their own incident command with law enforcement. The roles that we play in our incident command look a little different than that, and we're working with them throughout the incident. So when I say incident command, we're doing things like how are we communicating? How are we how are we figuring out what we're going to do with transportation if we need to relocate students, or if we need to do anything with transporting students differently than our normal bus schedule. We're working on communicating with food service for a variety of ways, making sure they don't have any vendors showing up. We found that at one of our lockdowns that, a vendor had access to the building that was delivering food, and they were unaware of the situation. So it's taking all of those different roles and saying, our public information officer and how they're communicating. Even on there is how do we communicate with the school board? That's part of that plan. So there's probably, when I say incident command, I'm talking about all those roles that the district would do versus what law enforcement will take as an incident command center, because that would be on site.
Again, I understand all that, but I still feel like it ought to be there, because let me give you another example. The response time from Navajo Nation from Kayenta to Monument Valley on a good day. That day was a good day. They were there instantly. But here at San Juan High School or the city of Blanding here, if a situation was to arise, they're there. Law enforcement's here, and the district office is here. I mean, that's in a perfect world. But where you're further out, it takes longer, and like you said, there's a lot of obstacles. There's a lot of things that could be in the way. Again, electronic communication or phone services, or just emergency personnel is going to be taking a long time. So that's why I'm asking. I'm just concerned. Those would be my complaints about it being here rather than it actually being at the location next door, because we do have elementary schools or, again, high school, vice versa. You have the necessities there as well of all these components that you explained.
Okay.
I just have a question, or thinking through what Nelson is saying, but the technology that wouldn't it involve the people here traveling, so that would take time to set up a system command for our part of it? The travel time, and so it seems like it would be a lot longer to start dealing with those things like, transportation for students and vendors coming in and all those kinds of things if you had to travel first and set it up, rather than setting up here and quickly being able to get onto all of those things that would happen, is what I'm thinking. And that does make sense that law enforcement, they're doing their thing right there. But we have that communication thing going on quickly here, rather than taking all the time to travel and then set up the technology in a building. I'm thinking I just think that sounds like it would take more time and set us back in a situation like that.
All right. Excuse me, do we have Mr. Carlson on? Okay, is he ready to go?
I am ready to go.
Okay, thank you for joining us. I'm sorry we're a little late.
You are just fine, and thank you. First of all, thank you for approving our new HVAC unit over the summer down here. Hopefully that's still on. But it's something that's really, really needed. Thank you for everything the board does. I also want to thank you for allowing me to get on virtually with you today. I was in Blanding yesterday with meetings, now be in Blanding tomorrow with meetings, and I felt it very important that I be in the school today to be doing work here. So I appreciate that. So Navajo Mountain, Aaron, if you want to go ahead and advance. So these are the goals that we are working on with our 90-day plan this year. Reading was one of the big subjects that our teachers felt that was important. So our first goal is 80% of our 9th through 11th grade students will increase their leading Lexile reading score by 75 points, with 100% of our students showing increase, and that's measured by our reading inventory test that we take 3 times a year. And the reason I have 9th through 11th grade is we do not do that test with the seniors, generally district-wide. Goal number 2 is to increase our Tier 1 and Tier 2 level of instruction within the classroom. The teachers focus more on teaching, measuring that by observations with our Q-tip teacher and our UEPC, the Utah Educational Policy Center, who is helping us as a consultant, looking at student engagement, and then assessment scores, both formative and summative, and then ultimately year-end scores with that. And then our third goal was to increase parental involvement by 80% over the school year, and that's being monitored by measuring participation by parents in different events that we have had, parent-teacher conference and so forth. Very good. So overall, our attendance is unexcused absences. We're at a 91.7% attendance at the end of March. I haven't had the chance to look up April, what we're going for there. So that's good. Looking there at our test scores, from last year with the Aspire, 9th and 10th grade. And then our ACT average composite was 14 last year. We've taken some steps to hopefully increase that score this year. From what I've seen, we have seen some increase on it. The four-year graduation rate is at a 92.3%, and this year one of our big celebrations is we are looking at a 100% graduation rate with our senior class. Referrals, I've had one discipline referral, which has been kind of shocking for me coming from Monument Valley last year to here. So that's been a nice change, a refreshing change. So progress towards our goals. When we did our mid-year reading inventory test, we have 60% of our students, or 12 of our students, who have met their 75 points of growth already. So we're ahead of the 8 ball on that one. Hopefully that keeps up. We've hit the 100% growth increase. So we're still below where we should be for being on grade level. So I think we'll continue to push the reading goal and the literacy goals going forward, but we have seen really good growth this year that, according to the teachers, they haven't seen in prior years. So we're happy about that. Again, we've worked with UEPC to increase engagement. I've got the Q-tip teacher down here, Mr. Tony Anderson, is now doing observations, and he's actually working more as a coach with our teachers, which is something he has not done in the past. So that's been nice to do that. Then we've placed a greater emphasis on formalizing our PLC procedures and focus on instruction with different components, including success criteria, learning objectives, aligning to the standards, and with our flex time to use it better for reinforcing instruction that students seem to be lagging on and getting that tier 2 instruction going. Also addressing student needs on the Maslow triangle to keep them better engaged in class and helping out there. And then we started out our year with the 20% parental participation rate at our back to school night. When we did our CCR night in February, we were at a 65% of our students were represented by parents. So we've definitely seen good growth there. Hopefully that continues. That number can keep going up. I know one success with our parents is, my understanding is previous years, their FCC here at the school has involved 3 or 4 parents that are employees of the school, classified employees who had students at the school. And this year, everyone on our FCC, we have 6 parents currently. They are all from out of the community. They're not employees of our school. So we've really done, I put a lot of work, and my staff's put a lot of work into reaching out to the community and getting them involved in our school, especially bringing the parents in. I think we're seeing some good growth there. Our challenges, as always, I think with any school, attendance is always a challenge. We're good. We're over that 90% goal with the unexcused absences. Now it's dealing with excused absences. There is a couple students with chronic absenteeism that we are dealing with there. And that's, a challenge we can work with, working with parents and so forth. Isolation, that's probably our biggest challenge, and it's the frustrating one because it's a challenge we can do nothing about. We're just out here in the middle of nowhere, so far from everything that you really have to plan ahead to do any kind of program, field trips, activities, all that stuff. But just the isolation being so far away is a constant challenge here. Not having a bus driver really hurts. I know we had a couple, we still have a couple good candidates to be a bus driver for our school here on a daily basis. But we're trying to work through some issues. I don't know if you're aware, Navajo Mountain does not have its own zip code. In Utah, our zip code goes through the Tonelli, Arizona zip code, and it's causing some issues with the Utah DMVs and I don't know the exact details on everything Conan does, but just issues with getting our drivers certified to be a school bus driver in Utah and getting their certification there that we're trying to work through. Then, of course, because of low enrollment, we do have a lack of staffing. One of our big challenges this year as well has been our long-term secretary out here. Miss Elsie Jones took a medical leave of absence in November. She ended up passing away at the end of January, which was a big loss to our school. And she was working on medical retirement at the time, but hadn't finished it yet. And it was the end of February before we hired a new administrative assistant secretary to run our office. So I was trying to kind of do double duty with all that as well as teach. So that was a big challenge. And of course, our enrollment numbers, just low enrollment, which we're taking steps to help that with some recruiting. And then there's generally, when I arrived at the beginning of the school year, a great deal of apathy on the students. They didn't see the value of education. They didn't see a lot happening with their future past high school, and it was more of, well, I'm here because I have to be here, not because I want to be here. So it's trying to build up programs, build up education, build up that sense of students being here for the accomplishment and seeing what's beyond high school, whether it be college, trade school, careers, family, whatever they want to do, how they can value and benefit from their education. Okay, Aaron. So celebrations, and these ones have been great this year. A lot of this information I got from my teachers. I asked them, what do you think our biggest celebrations are? Because this is my first year at the school. 100% of our seniors graduating this year, I think, is huge. We had 2 of our seniors, because of COVID, that had 0 credits earned their freshman year. So they've done 4 years of education in 3 years. They've done a lot of hard work this year, and I'm really proud of them. We have increased our programs that we offer to our students at school. We've increased clubs, increased activities, and that's going to continue next year. We're taking our volleyball team to a varsity level next year. We're looking at adding esports and some other programs that have the community excited, that has our students excited. We've added events this year to help build some community excitement and student excitement. Among those was the Miss Navajo Mountain pageant, which to my understanding hasn't happened for about 20 years. That was really fun having that and seeing everyone come out for that. We also did a Halloween carnival for the community, which was really fun, and we're looking to add more events there. And then we're adding more classes. One reason for this is, I don't want to toot my own horn, but with me coming here, just the number of classes I'm certified to teach, where Mr. Rock taught mostly independent study classes with students on computers and so forth. I've actually been able to step in the classroom, teach a few more classes with my certifications, which has offered more classes as well as through online offerings. We're building that up. So that's all helped get morale up a bit, students excited. Of course, I mentioned before, the teachers are loving the fact that they say that our PLCs and our meetings in general are more formalized with processes and procedures put in place, so they know what to expect. And giving the teachers a bigger voice in that has really helped. We've done several improvements to the school, and we have several planned improvements. These include an outdoor patio setting. With the help of Tyrell, we have purchased some outdoor patio tables that are going to come to kind of give students more area to work with. With the state of Utah, they are donating some hydroponic units to us, and we're going to begin an agriculture program with the hydroponics. And then next year, our goal is to build some outdoor gardens here at the school and see if we can't work from there on FFA and agriculture. We're adding more clubs, we're adding more sports teams, National Honor Society, we're getting more involved with Sterling Scholars, among others. One of our big celebrations this year is our robotics team. being able to compete in the state championships in Arizona through the ResBox program, and next week they'll be in Houston, Texas. They've been invited to the World Championships there. This is the second time in 6 years that we've gone to the World Championships. First one was in Mexico City. So we're really excited about that. And this year, through the CTE programs here at schools, the first year we've sent students to the CTSO competitions in Blanding. And we also sent students for the first time to region leadership conferences as held at Whitehorse back in August. And a lot of good things. We've added student government, which is a program they've never had at the school before. And that's been a really a big help to lift that morale of the students as well and get students involved. And then we have a new administrative assistant who is amazing. She's been a big help, and actually having a counselor in the building. I know last year Navajo Mountain shared a counselor with Monument Valley, and it caused for some, not really issues, but it's a lot better when that counselor is in the building and can address things immediately and help out with scheduling and class changes and all the different things that counselors have to do on the fly, which has been a very big celebration. Any questions I can answer for you?
Does anyone have any questions?
Good afternoon. So with your celebrations, my main concern was the student apathy. Do you think that has helped the students where that's concerned?
I think
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think the student apathy has definitely improved with the more activities, the more classes. From the first day I walked into the building, and I don't want to take any credit at all. I'm not tooting my own horn here, but I think just the change of administration and the change of the way the school's been run, there's been several things that has been kind of helter-skelter in prior years from what I've been told, that we kind of put in policy and changed procedures and just getting students more involved in the school themselves. I think the morale of the school is definitely going up. More students are excited to be here. And from the beginning of the school year till now, we've seen that steady rise in our attendance numbers increasing, which I believe is a definite show. Our grades are going up. We have less students failing when we're doing observations. Both me and Mr. Anderson, we've witnessed more students involved in discussions and conversations. Formative testing assessments are up higher. So the student apathy, I believe, is definitely improving. It's going away right now because of some of the programs that the staff and faculty has been willing to work with down here.
Thank you.
Nelson, did you have a comment?
Question. Good afternoon, Ryan. This is Nelson. How many students are enrolled?
We currently have 24 students enrolled. 2 of our seniors graduated early, one in December and then one at the end of the third quarter. So we were at 26. We had 27 students. One moved to Phoenix due to family issues early on. We did have our community school, the 8th graders in the building today, and they 5 of the 6 of them are planning on attending our school next year. I'm actually excited. We were invited to Kaibato boarding school a couple weeks ago, myself and our counselor. We went down there and did a presentation. They have 3 or 4 students that live in the Navajo Mountain area that attend the boarding school at Kaibato. They're actually said they're planning on attending our school next year, which should put 9 students in our freshman class. And I actually talked to a grandma in our community that her grandson attends Red Mesa and lives at a boarding school over there because of their esports team. And when he found out that we're beginning esports next year, he wants to transfer to our school too. So we have 24 currently, but it looks like our freshman class might actually be somewhere around 10 or more students next year. which would put it right up there at the largest class we have in school at this time and boost our enrollment up.
And how many seniors?
We have 5 seniors, counting the 2 that have already graduated early.
Okay, I don't know how many students your school can hold, but you might be surprised.
I've been told back in the day they had about 70 students here, and that'd probably put us busting at the seams, I believe. But we have I have 4 amazing teachers down here. They're really, really good. Our support staff is amazing, and I think we're up to a challenge of definitely having a lot more enrollment down here.
And your isolation is not, that will never change? This is the way it is?
Yeah,
But
that's always going to be a challenge we have to deal with. I was fighting putting that on the challenges or not, because my idea is putting things on challenges that we can fix and we can work on. I think the best way to get around the isolation is just we need to plan better, just make sure we're prepared for situations and make sure we're ahead of everything when we're planning activities and so forth. But it is what it is.
and as for cultural stuff, are you doing those over the air? Heritage language classes, activities?
Yes, so we have, outside of our Heritage Month in November, where we do a lot of it there, like I mentioned, we did add the Miss Navajo Mountain Pageant. We're looking at doing a Mr. Navajo Mountain Pageant as well next year, expanding on that. I really believe, and my time in Monument Valley really taught me this, that if the students are to be engaged and to learn, they really have to embrace their culture. And the Navajo and the Paiutes, we do have some Paiute students here, working with them. Education is such an important part of their culture. So this summer, we're working on changing the internal appearance of the school as much as possible to make it more student-friendly, more cultural, aware of what's going on by just doing some different displays, posters, locations of where we have things in the hall. Our Navajo program is very well with Mr. Badoni, who teaches it. We've added Native American Studies this year as an alternative social studies class for students. We're looking to add Navajo government next year. And looking at a lot of cultural awareness field trips, as well as bringing in motivational speakers. We brought in some dancers this year, lot to do with the culture of the school and embracing that. And we started a Unity Club this year. I know I didn't mention that. We're looking to strengthen that well and really embrace that culture. And we're slowly working towards raising funds to build a Hogan at the school campus as well, which I feel is one of my high priorities when I first came out here. Was the school has no Hogan, no visual representation of that culture, and I really wanted to change that. So we are working towards that as well.
Okay, sounds great, thank you. That was going to be my next question about the Hogan, but I guess you've got that in the plans. Thank you again.
We're working on it.
Thank you, Mr. Carlson. We appreciate you joining us and continue to do the good work. It sounds like you've got a lot going.
We're trying. It's busy down here. Everyone's doing a lot of stuff. So I appreciate everything and invite any of you to come visit us at any time and see what's going on down here. It's a great school. It is an amazing community. There's a lot of amazing things happening.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Julie, are you ready for yours? Oh, okay. Perfect.
All right. So we are excited to recap a whole year with you. No, in 3 quick goals. So I will, however you want us to approach it. Do you want us to share?
Probably that's best.
Okay.
You should highlight what you feel is the best for us to know. That would be great.
Okay. So I will kind of cover goals 1 and 2. Derek will highlight goal 3.
Okay.
Our 3 goals really, our first one is highly effective instruction, and this one's really been taken on by our district leadership team. And the goal really is that 80% of our students are reaching mastery in the classroom in Tier 1 instruction. So that's been a pretty lofty one, and I'll delve into that a little bit deeper in a minute. Our second goal is early literacy and really looking at an evidence-based core program
to support instructional needs for early literacy. And our third is school improvement and really looking at our 90-day plans and targeting school leadership teams and the implementation cycle of school leadership.
So I'll jump back into goal 1. So our previous priorities are those that are in the shelves over here, that we focused on PLCs, we focused on instructional multi-tiered systems, and EL and ML development, also integrating the portrait of a graduate elements. For this year, the district leadership team, and you can see, if you want to just go to the next one, and then I might pop back to this one. These are our district leadership team members for this year, and we have teachers on there as well, which has been super beneficial to the process. But in looking at 80% of students reaching that Tier 1 goal of mastery in the classroom every day, we've started with this instructional cycle. And this is put out by USBE as a support to all schools to really be able to look at each one of these areas. The work we've done in PLCs, the work we've done in EL and ML, English language learners and multilingual learners has been a real support in this cycle as well. So this is kind of where we started with the DLT and also with our data, looking at our district-wide data of where we were at and what we needed. The purpose really of the DLT is to look at district level needs and support, come up with a goal, and then move that initiative forward to support those needs. So we really started with that data and looking at the 90-day plan goals and saying, how can we help administrators embed the work of reaching that goal of 80% in Tier 1 instruction with their goals of their 90-day plan goals. So a lot of that work obviously happens when we come to principals meetings. So the DLT meets, we work through, it's hard work because it's actionable work. We don't come with all of the ideas or all of the answers. We really kind of struggle through that process. And then we bring that to principals meeting. So the work we've done in PLCs has been a great support, and also the work that we've done in building instructional leadership. So if you go to this slide right here, these are the 5 high leverage practices that are really outlined by the state, but are very important. They also support that high quality instructional cycle that I just showed you. But these ones in the box right here are specifically what the DLT has chosen to break up for the rest of the year and potentially even into next year, because this is such a significant impact. Tier 1 instruction, if we can impact what's happening in Tier 1 instruction, our Tier 2, our Tier 3, our small group instruction, all of that will be minimized if we can really capitalize on what's happening in Tier 1. So this will potentially carry over into next year if that's what they decide. And they have taken each one of these areas, these 5 areas, and they've outlined a structure to be able to dig into each one of these and what they look like, alongside what we call our evidence-based play cards. So the state has also put together for us some evidence-based play cards that go into very specific strategies. They have the effect size of how important they really are for us to utilize in the classroom if they're utilized properly. And then they give a whole bunch of teacher supports. So we have braided that as a DLT with these 5 areas and come up with a plan to support principals each month in those areas. Tomorrow, we are focusing on digging further into teacher clarity and looking at success criteria. So they will look at the play card. All of these are on USB's website as well, but they will dig into that. They're going to look at a standard. They're going to break principles. They're going to break that standard down. And they will identify success criteria from that standard and walk through that process. So they're also bringing in school level teachers to say, how is this working in the schools, and what can we do to better support you at the district level from the DLT perspective. So that'll be a fun piece tomorrow as well, and they've kind of got that outlined for several months as well. That's kind of an overview, and then if you look at kind of how we're doing on the next slide, there are a lot of different ways that we can look at how are we doing with Tier 1 instruction. And every school is looking at it in their own unique way and day to day. So teachers are looking at exit tickets at the end of every lesson. But overall, this is just kind of a real quick snapshot of what we see. So in the elementary area, 61% of our students making typical or above progress, and then 70% making, or in math, making that progress, which is a 4% increase from where we were at last year in reading, and a 2% increase in math. Which is very positive. And then you can see the Lexile levels, they're definitely not where we want them. There are there is some growth from beginning of year BOY to middle of year MOY. And then if you look back to, from the end of last year's, there's some growth there for this point in the year. We need more, and we recognize that, and that's going to be a big goal to focus on overall reading and comprehension. And then in the secondary, if you look at that data, that's pretty positive for the end of third quarter. That's really just the end of third quarter saying, here's where all of our schools, our secondary schools were at, 3.5%, failing 50 or more, which is a pretty good number to have that low. And then students failing 1 to 3 classes was 14. On-track students, 87%, meaning that at the end of third quarter, that's where and there's a lot of work that's going in day to day to get them to that point. And then, of course, you start fourth quarter, and the data looks very different. The first 2 weeks of the quarter are very difficult, and you do have more students failing classes, throughout the quarter. But this is really great progress. Do you have any questions about that goal? Okay, goal number two focuses directly on early literacy. And as you can see, all of these things, you can glance down through these, but I will just say that the Letters Initiative has been highly successful in San Juan School District. Very appreciated, and the implementation has been so supported by our instructional coaches. We are all working on change management plans, which are very similar to our 90-day plans, and we're going to try to weave those together. But principals are so dedicated to looking at needs assessments, looking at their data, really digging into root cause analysis to find out where really are our breakdowns and where can we intervene. So they're sharing across, the elementary world, they're sharing PLC ideas, they're sharing deep data dive ideas across both regions, which is awesome. And then if you'll go to the next one, I'll just give you just a real quick snapshot of these. So this is our Acadience reading data K3, and if you'll remember in the plan this year, we went with composites instead of individual submeasures. So this looks a little bit different this year. You can't really compare this year's data to last because we're looking at we're looking at overall scores, but there's still some adequate progress showing up there, which is exciting. And then pathways to progress are those individual goals that students are making based off of where they're at. Are they making typical or above typical? And I will just say that last year we were at 57%, so there was a 4% increase from where we were at last year to this year, which is great. And then our attendance stayed the same. I don't know how that happened, but we were still at 91%. The next slide shows math. So a quick snapshot of math. We had a 2% increase overall. Each individual school looks a little bit different, but overall in the district there was a 2% increase for their individual growth, which is great. A couple of things that I want to just mention so that you're aware of that you'll see, in one of our challenges, it's legislative updates with limited funding. That's going to significantly impact our early literacy programs this year. This year, the Utah Code Section 53, they repealed as of July 1st several pieces of this code that deals directly to early literacy. So there will be no more early literacy plan that will come to you. So these are things that we're thinking about at the district level that regardless of whether they come to us from the state or not, they're things that are important for moving the work forward that we will potentially continue, but you won't be looking at an early literacy plan. It will be an early math plan. It will just be focusing on math. One of the things that wasn't stricken from the code was they could have a literacy goal in the math plan. So that's kind of interesting. But what's actually happened is that 6 specific programs have been reallocated to the at-risk WPU. So we used to receive this funding as a grant, and a program funding that we could spend as a program and allocate how we needed to, which was, we have received a significant amount of money over the years in this program. When it's reallocated to the at-risk WPU, that's handled very differently, and 6 programs at the legislature went that way this year. So that means there's just gonna, how it falls out, and there's gonna be, we have about 15 paraeducators that are being paid out of that budget. So we're looking for options, and we'll do the best that we can, but that will potentially have a significant impact on early literacy and the support for early literacy.
Okay, goal 3 is the initiatives and outcome, and it's regarding school improvement. So again, there's a list of different initiatives, as you've heard Julie say. The 90-day plan kind of goes into that initiative, identifying where schools are within their TSI or ATSI, and what those updates are, looking at what the focuses are for the strategies within schools, and then looking at how we can support the entire school. So having paraeducator training has been really helpful. We've just started an initiative with the Utah Education Policy Center, and that's from Utah University, and they've really created a curriculum out of nothing to help paraeducators be mindful and have that conversation with how they can be integrated within our school and assist teachers and students within their capacities. Also the extracurricular engagement, and then also the Q-tip training and instructional rounds. Again, with our consultant, Rachel Nance, that has been very helpful to a lot of our schools on an individual level, but also as a district as a whole. She has provided training and different opportunities for our schools to be successful, to meet, to have time set aside to plan out what their 90-day goals are looking like and how they can address those. So that all falls part of the Goal 3 initiative for school improvement. So the next one is, oh, I have the control. Systems for support and collaboration. So again, just talking about how we've come together, as you heard, as the DLT, the district leadership team, we've met, we add members, and there's a process to kind of have more voices or different voices on an ongoing basis. So that is also helpful, and working through that process has been very eventful. Again, as Julie iterated that, it's kind of, we're working through those problems as we go through that, but I think we have a really strong team that has helped support that process, and kind of seeing it from the ground to what's going to be presented at principals meeting has been very impactful for the work we're doing, and it's coming from the peers as well. So there's teachers on there, administrators, assistant principals, and so it's part of that process to really identify what the needs are and hearing all the voices within our entire district as well. So, and then again, I'm not going to go through all of these and list all of them, but these are some of the ways that we meet and collaborate. Again, a lot of our documents are Google Docs, so teams can share those, download those, make their own copies and make them theirs. But having that transparency has been very helpful and beneficial for a lot of our schools, especially with new administrators in certain areas, certain schools. It's been helpful to kind of collaborate and use that time to build successes. Again, part of that is the family and community engagement too. So again, how we kind of incorporate that is looking at involving the community, whether it's through our CCR days, different events at the community levels, chapter house visits. Some schools have the opportunity to do home visits, so that outreach has been very helpful in kind of breaking down those barriers of reaching out to our community. So there's different ways that looks at different sites, but I think with opening up our schools and our communities to kind of be act as one for the betterment of our students has been the ultimate goal. So that has been an improvement. Again, as you heard at Navajo Mountain, there's more people on their SEC, and then other locations, again, it's just having those open events where families feel welcome to come to the schools at all of our sites. And do you want to? So I'm gonna let Julie, you want to do the report cards, and then I'll do
Sure, this is just an overview of the school report cards. You can just drill into each one of those. Overall, a lot of successes, a lot of schools showing developing commendable, typical progress. One of the areas that I did pull out and put on the side there for you is the EL progress. That definitely is an area that we still need to focus on. If you look at, those little wheels on each one of those report cards, that's a common thread that we're still working on. Although we have made progress even before ATSI came out, San Juan High was in EL for TSI, and they also
They exited that before ATSI. So there's been a lot of work happening, and same with ARL. They just exited for that, which is really interesting because they're showing critical needs. I see a typo on that. ARL should say critical needs, not typical. But the reality is each group of students looks very different, and the number of students that are in monitoring status versus the number of students also that are potentially on an IEP. There's a lot of, when you really drill down into the data, ARL even made a 10% growth in proficiency, but their growth shows that they didn't make adequate progress, so they're in critical need. So there's a lot of aspects to look at this, but I think you can dig into those, but there's the school report card on the left and then the EL progress specifically on the right.
Go through the rest together, I don't know. Okay. So again, this is, we get graduation and updates on all of our schools. So this just kind of is that breakdown of our total students at all of our secondary schools, and then it gives us a breakdown of those who are on track. Again, a lot of the language within our school and trust plans have these languages tied into them as well too, so that we see that progress, but it's also using this data to make those plans and to have them as the 90-day plan so that we're looking at those goals and effectively monitoring our progress at each of our sites. Also, there's seniors on track to graduate, kind of as a breakdown for each of our school sites, and then the graduation rate for 2023. So again, those are some of the important pieces of the data that we see. Again, we are seeing smaller and smaller numbers for the minimally engaged, and so that's kind of been looking at different, why is that occurring? And then having the different discussions of, is it extracurriculars? Is it teachers? Is it the constant monitoring? So, and those different supports within the schools as well have kind of pointed to these as well. So identifying that and how those are all incorporating, again, we want to see on track kind of grow, but I think there's been significant progress in that. And then you also see the breakdown for early graduates within our different school sites as well too.
I have a question on that, if you can go back to, on the total students, when we're talking okay, it does, never mind, it says 7 through 12, but that's what I was trying to say, because San Juan High School's
It would
just
be
the,
Yeah, and that's a little different when you look at
because
when
of
you look at
ARLs
the
on this
DLT
too.
data, it's taken from this data from quarter 3, but it doesn't include ARL. So that's where there's a little bit of a discrepancy in those two charts.
Okay.
One is just really truly secondary, and the other one is.
Okay, thanks.
And then again, this is benchmark data for our grades 3 through 8 and 9 through 11. So again, with the grades 9 through 11, there are, it is a challenge to break that data down because there are various contents. So you see a nicer breakdown with the grades 3 through 8. So that's why we're working on ways on what that can look like as far as presenting the data for 9 through 11. But again, it gets muddy when there's a lot of data, a lot of numbers, a lot of graphs. So we're trying to break that down and simplify that as best we can. But that's why you see the more accurate breakdown for grades 3 through 8. And then those are taken from RISE, and you see the difference going from below proficient to highly proficient as well. And then, again, just talking about the benchmarks, there's various things with our UTIPs that we use. Again, it's looking at math and English. And again, looking at that breakdown, the data is being used by the teachers. Again, those could be as far as formative assessments in the classroom, but also looking at what those benchmarks are and how are they using that within their classroom. Again, to kind of articulate this data is a little bit difficult right now because it is secondary and it does involve a lot of different components as far as the content is involved. But this, for the math, you can see the breakdown for the benchmarks, and then that just kind of is used through our Aspire Plus and Canvas. So that's kind of the assessment data there. And then our ACT scores, again, looking at the difference, those who scored 18% or higher, what the composite score averages are. And then, again, there's, with some of the schools, they might be smaller, so there's no data available. But then it talks about also the increases that we've seen, again, from year to year as well. So, don't know if there's any questions on that.
Can I ask a question on the
Sure.
previous slide? Have we not had a common writing assessment in the past, and that's why they're doing that now?
Is that for the
English language
second-
arts, the teacher
Yeah.
team is is developing.
So they have done benchmarks for ELA in the past, but they wanted to revise it with U-tips. We didn't have anything accessible. So what they'd done is they downloaded what they used the previous year and put it in Canvas for this year. But they're really wanting to make that more applicable on their own. And as you look at these benchmark scores, they're not outstanding by any means. It really is a process of learning how to create them, how to utilize them, and so we're in that process.
Okay, thank you.
Just real close to the. Okay. So do you want to talk on this one?
So school improvement designations, I just put a thing on there so that you could kind of wrap your heads around those. Those are a little bit tricky, who's in comprehensive, TSI and ATSI, and what those designations mean. And then you can see on the next slide our school designations. And when Shannon presented a few months ago, she actually shared these updates with you. One thing that has been really, really helpful in working through this process is working directly with the state. They're starting to offer some very tailored professional development that focuses on the designated area. So if you're in for students with disabilities, if you're in for economically disadvantaged, which there's a new one this year. And then I know the River Region hasn't had these designations per se because of the testing situation, but in the Mountain Region, it's been a significant need for us to collaborate. When we saw as a region that we had multiple designations that were the same, we felt that there was power behind getting together and collaborating on those and really coming up with plans to support that. And so that's some of the effort that's gone behind some of these designations and will continue.
And again, the last two are our challenges and opportunities. So again, challenges you can see are recruitment and retention of staff, recruitment of special education teachers and paraeducators, health and wellness, self-care, new mandates and legislation implementation. ESSER funding is expiring. And then new legislation and programs combined into the WPU. And then you want to speak?
Yeah, I'll just highlight a couple of the celebrations I think that are really pivotal for us this year. Parent engagement and communication. I think that has been a huge focus for all of our schools, and really, having a newsletter, opening the door, to the community, to the family, really being that source of information and there to support. And then also, reaching out. I know one thing that's been really helpful for us in the Mountain Region is our White Mesa Student Success Teams. I know I've mentioned that before, but they're becoming stronger and stronger all the time. We had one last night, and the principals provide the data. We review the data. Mary attended one of those, and I think Dan, you came out too. And really having that connection with the community and the families, and being able to hear out their needs and what's working, what's not working with liaisons, to be able to support what they need. And we know that, way back on that slide Derek showed about family engagement, there are several aspects of student achievement related to family engagement, and making those connections is one of the biggest. And so I think there's a lot of power behind that, and I think that's a huge celebration across the district, but specifically for our White Mesa community and our administrators that are supporting that. The other thing I just mentioned is, our schools that have exited. This says TSI, it's ATSI as well, because that's a pretty long journey, and you're really looking at a moving target. What we've determined in working with those school improvement designations is it is about the individual group, it is about those students, but it's really a bit more about the systems. And if you can have an impact on the systems that are developed within your school, then you can have a consistent impact from year to year, which is really important. So that's been a big thing. And then I just want to give a shout out really to all of our, to the DLT, to our administrators in the buildings, to our district staff that come together, that collaborate, that work hard every day for this kind of data and for the efforts that we're sharing with you to happen. We're here to present, but it truly is a team effort, so.
Okay, any more questions? Well, thank you both, because we're glad that's your job, not ours. It's a lot of information, so a lot of work, so thank you. Okay?
Thank you.
Sure. No, George. Yeah. Yours not working? I think one of my kids switched me. Yeah. I was trying to sneeze with my other one. Thanks. I know. Great. All right, we are going to jump back to our agenda, and we're going to go, Tyrell, do you want to just start out with payroll distribution?
Yeah, I don't have much to add from last month's presentation that was provided to the board. You know, we went over some of those different things. This is just to bring back, and if there's further discussion from the board on the topic of adjusting payroll from monthly to a semi-monthly. Correct me if I say that wrong, because I've been known to say it wrong. Paying twice a month instead of the monthly. There's definitely pros and cons to that. So if there's further discussion that the board has, I'm happy to address anything.
Last month you did bring like some figures. Was that more general or specific? I mean, if this passed, how specific could we dive down into what would be required?
Yeah,
a financial, a
That's
fiscal responsibility with that?
That's a good question. Last month in the presentation I provided, that was for another FTE, another full-time employee, and I think I mentioned in the meeting last month that, you know, it probably wouldn't warrant another full-time position to take on the extra burden of doing a semi-monthly payroll. It will be an additional burden on the business office staff and on the resources that we have available to us. Short of implementing a change like that, you know, I don't know the specifics of, you know, we would likely be needing an additional, whether it's part-time support or restructuring of the business office. There would be additional resources that need to be allocated in order to support that, because it will be an additional burden with taking on a semi-monthly payroll. But as I mentioned last month too, you know, you have a business office staff that's really supportive of anything that we want to do. I just would reiterate that there would be, you know, an additional burden of time and resources that would be placed on our staff. But if we feel that the benefit to those employees of receiving the pay, you know, in twice a month instead of once a month outweighs those additional burdens that it places on and an additional resource that may be needed. As a school board, you know, as a business office, we're here to support, you know, the decisions that we make as a school board. And we're willing and prepared to do that. We just, one thing I mentioned last month that I would reiterate again today is, you know, if this is on and as an action item for later in our meeting, you know, if you do decide to take action on this and request that we move to a semi-monthly payroll, I would request strongly that we not implement this in the upcoming fiscal year, so not starting July 1 of 2024, but at least giving us till July 1 of 2025. As we are going through some changes with our payroll software, there's other things that we've got going on that are major lifts and projects right now. And so if we could have that time to get through some of those projects and lists that we're trying to do right now, we feel we'd be in a better position to take that on for the following fiscal year, the 2025 and 2026 school year.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Did you, Steve?
I guess just a comment. As we discussed this and been pondering on this over the last several months, has been on the board agenda. The Bureau of Labor Statistics does put out information about you know, how often businesses or employers pay out So it has, which portion of employees pay out on a weekly or a semi-monthly or biweekly. And the monthly is definitely in the minority, about 10% monthly. So that means that 90% of employees get paid out more often than monthly. So I guess as I look at this, I think it would be a good benefit for employees. I think it could, improve our ability to hire, retain employees if we paid them out more frequently than monthly.
I know there was a question last month too of whether the license, if we split it in half, whether the licensed employees opposed to the classified employees as well. I mean, I'm with Steve. I think it will add to the morale of the employees that we currently have, and I think it would be beneficial to us in the long run. Whether I just wouldn't want to overburden the business department. So that would be of course, the hard part of it all.
And we would, I mean, if we're going to move to, more than once a month payroll, we would just request that the entire district be moved to that, not splitting it.
Right.
I have a question for Steve. So the employees that you're talking about and the school district would be in the 10% because we pay once a month. Is that all employees, any kind of a business, or is it school districts and government entities? I just remember from our last board meeting when they talked about all the different funds that employees are paid from, and that's a different issue than so many employees and businesses where, the money comes in from one place and it's paid out from one place, and so it makes it easy for those entities to make payroll depending on how many employees they have. So San Juan School District is unique compared to other businesses because of the different funds that the money is placed in and then has to be paid out of. And it's also, like for instance, in San Juan County, it's the largest employer in San Juan County, so making so many more payouts. And so is that comparing to businesses that are not anything like a school district, or is that in comparison to other school districts?
The Bureau of Labor Statistics is just employers. It doesn't distinguish between for-profit, education, government, whatever. But it does break it down into industry, and it has the breakdown for education and health services. That's as granular as we can get to education. If you look at the education health services, monthly is about 8% of employers that pay out monthly. Regarding the size of the organization, that I imagine school districts between 500 and 999 in that range. Is that accurate? For the number of employees, between 500 and 1,000? Yeah. In that range, it's less than 1% that pay out monthly. So generally the bigger, it's more often. The monthly, it's the 1 to 9 employees where we see a lot of monthly payouts. I can share this with you if you want me to send that.
Can I add one thing on that same note? I think I mentioned last month too, like we see this, and to Steve's point, it is the more common trend, right? In all industries across the country and in the state of Utah, and even locally you see it, correct? And I think I presented months and months ago when we first talked about this. In the state of Utah, a poll was done within school districts, and there's 75% of school districts in the state, including large and small, that were pulled. I don't think we got 100% of the school districts that answered and responded to that, but 75% are paying monthly, and the other 25% have moved to more regular pay out. So, I mean, that's just one data point, but I would agree with what Steve is saying, and obviously we're not going to argue with the labor statistics, right? But we're seeing that, right? That it is a more common trend, locally in the state and nationally, but just, I mean, to what you were asking there, Mary, that's kind of one thing with school districts specifically.
So, having been on the board, I feel like we've had this discussion over time. I kind of feel like regardless of what we choose to do, if we choose not to, I feel like it's going to come up again. So maybe if we choose to do this, either way, that at least, like you said, I think preparation is the key in what we're going to do. I'm not sure if we choose not to, it's totally going to die either. So I don't know. But any more comments?
I continue to stand my position. Another good example I could give you, Mary, this was one of your questions at the last board meeting or so, as to why we ought to go this direction. And I've given you several points as to why. Here's one that is a shot in the gut for me. There's a family of 8 that had lost their home just last week in a fire, completely burnt down. And the mother is a kitchen aide at TES, and she's got kids and grandkids that are living with her. They have nothing. Those are the ones that I'm advocating for. We cannot get a fire hydrant on the reservation. We cannot buy into fire insurance because we don't have those fire hydrants. It's a chance that those of us that live on the reservation take day to day with house fires, electrical fires, anything to do with the fire. So, Steve, thank you for those figures that you mentioned. And again, I continue to stand my position on this. And like President Mon said, it will probably come back again. One day I won't be here, another day you won't be here. There'll be new board members, it will come again.
I lost my voice. Excuse me, yes, I won't be here before you won't be here. But to be clear and to make it, to be clear about this, I'm not opposed to people getting paid twice a month. I'm not opposed to that, but if you look at my record throughout my service on the school district, more expense to the school district is what I've always consistently been concerned with. And as Tyrell has explained, the hiring somebody new. Today, he's saying they can probably work that out with the staff that they have. But that's been my only concern. It's not that I don't want, and my point that people still will make the same amount. They're not going to get more money. They will get it more often, and if that's helpful to people. But I've never been opposed to them getting their money more often. It's just the expense to the school district, and when we spend it there, we don't spend it somewhere else. And we're getting ready to, as a school district, we will be approving a new budget for next year. There's almost always increases in insurance. There's increases with other, and we've seen inflation really go up. So everything's costing more money. And we're talking, in Blanding Elementary with the change to the new location, we will have ongoing new busing expenses forever. And anything that's ongoing, a new employee, new position, busing, anything, then they continue to make more money over time. They want, of course, increase in their income. And so it just is more money. So if people still get the same amount of money, and then it's costing the school district money to do that, where we can't spend it in so many other critical needs, that's always been my concern. So I'm not opposed to paying people more often, but spending more money to do it has been my concern.
Okay. Do you have anything to say? Anything left?
Just to follow up on that, I do realize that it will cost more money to do a semi-monthly payroll. One of the things that bugs me a little bit, though, is in some ways it's kind of at the expense of the employees that we're saving the money by doing monthly, because we're holding on to their money, keeping it within the district for 2 weeks longer than otherwise on a semi-monthly. So in my mind, it's just a cost of doing business, and just need to bite the bullet and do it. But
Okay. Well, Tyrell, why don't you just finish us out? BES follow-up, anything?
All right. Just two things on the BES follow-up, just to give you kind of an idea of where we're at, and a reminder, as we've talked about in past months. So Westland, the general contractor that we hired for our early involvement, has got this project out to bid. And when we come back in our May board meeting is when they will have and present to us a guaranteed maximum price. And we'll be looking for a board approval for us to move forward with that contract with them once we've received those bids back for them to give us the GMP. So just keep that in mind, that that's going on, and that'll be coming in our May board meeting as we discuss that. The second thing, we've talked about a little bit previously is we've received our permit and approval from the State Historic Preservation Office to move forward with the mitigation efforts on the site for the one location on our current site. So that'll be taking place next week, so that we've got a licensed archaeologist that'll help us with that, and we'll move forward and get that resolved and be as sensitive as we can with everything. So I just wanted to give the school board a heads up that that'll be taking place next week, and we'll be receiving that clearance from them to move forward with construction after they're done with that. So that's all taking place, and it'll be coming up pretty quick. And then in our May meeting, we'll have a review of that contract and GMP amount. So that's just our update. And again, just a huge thank you to so many different people that have provided input on the Blanding Elementary School project. And just this week I've had conversations with individuals that have provided good input and feedback that we'll be seeing, with the school, and changes that I think will be a good thing for this community. So huge input that's received. A huge thank you to, our maintenance department staff and all that they've done in combing through those plans and trying to make sure that we're getting, the best and most maintainable building for the community. And they've combed through a lot of things, been a lot of time, so appreciate them. It's been a long process, and we're excited to get moving forward on it. So that's just a heads up. Any questions there with Blanding?
Nope, you can just go on to capital projects while you're at it.
Okay. I do have one.
Yeah.
I do have one question. There was a letter read at our last meeting that was signed by, I believe, like 20 teachers. Has anybody communicated with them about their comment in our board comment?
Do you have an
Not
update
to
on
the
this?
20 teachers. I am not sure. I can follow up and see, but if you want me to communicate to all of them, I can do that.
Okay. So to clarify, has
I have not reached out to any of them.
Have we addressed their request at all to any of them?
I have not
Okay.
responded to them, but I would be
Okay, but
happy
if-
to do that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Just to clarify, when I reached out to them to ask how they would like this delivered or handled, they wanted it read,
But they didn't
disclose
ask
any
for,
desire for response.
Oh,
We have
okay.
sheets that say I would or would not like response, and that's kind of what we
Okay.
respect for the person who
okay.
supplies information, but we
So
which is why we have.
when people email that, they have that option to,
I respond to them.
okay, and they didn't want any,
They didn't.
they didn't want any response
They
with
just
their,
wanted it to be brought to the attention of the board,
okay,
a copy.
okay, thanks. Okay.
All right, capital projects, as you heard from Mr. Carlson, thanking the board for approving that project. Our Buildings and Ground Department has put out an invitation for bid on that project, so we're moving forward there. He's also working with the schools as we move forward with the Montezuma Creek Elementary School playground. So that we haven't put that one out there yet, but that he's working on getting that prepared. Mr. Correo is. So those are two things. Appreciate the board's support as we'll work on getting those done. Just one thing I wanted to also just bring to the board's attention, with something that we've been kind of working on for many months is in Blanding community, we have the old baseball and softball fields behind San Juan High School, the ZLB building over there. We've had an electrical issue with the transformer that provides power to the lights that are on those fields. And so we've been working with Blanding City for several months to kind of come up with a solution to get those working again, as they contribute a lot to, our programs utilize those lights for fundraisers that they run on the 4th of July. And then the city utilizes the fields and the lights for many city programs. And so it's been a collaborative effort with the city. So we're working on that and hoping to come up with a solution. We so that there are lights available for, specifically in the Blanding community, they have their Midnight Madness event that they host on the 4th of July. And that brings in, a significant amount of money to the programs at the high school as a fundraiser that they do. And so we're working on coming up with solutions. One of the things that we have looked into in working with the city is reducing the size of the transformer that we need on those fields, because it's currently a massive transformer. It's running old lights, and if we can reduce the amount of power that we need through LED lights on the fields, we can reduce the size of transformer, which gives us the problem with the transformer size is you're looking at a higher cost for a transformer, and then also the lead times on availability for that kind of equipment right now, we're being told could be 18 months to 2 years out before you get a new transformer of that size, whereas a smaller one that could operate LEDs is more readily available. And so we're working on that, and we've submitted an application to Energy Fuels, who has a foundation that provides funding for projects like this that benefit communities and county residents. And so we've submitted an application just for some material costs on what that would be to upgrade the lights to LEDs. And then the city has been working with us to help us with running a new power line and a smaller transformer. So there would be some fiscal impact on the city as they would help with the project to get it to where it was ready for. So I just bring that up as kind of a heads up. The Energy Fuels Foundation, we haven't received word from them if they would fund this project. We submitted an application, and it's possible that we could receive some funding to help with that. I just wanted to let you know that that's something that has been kind of out there that we haven't had answers to yet, as we've been trying to work on different ideas and different solutions, working with our with Kedrick Red, our grounds supervisor, and working with the city and just trying to come up with a solution. So I just bring that up as a heads up, and in future meetings it will likely come up again. If Energy Fuels does select the school district, I'd bring that back to you all as a project that we'd like to move on, but it would help with the financial impact so that it wasn't taking out of as much resources from San Juan School District capital budgets there. So just provide that as an update, and if there's questions there, happy to try to answer them. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. It's kind of off to the side, but Navajo Nation right now is in the process of making the business transition with Goldings now. I'm just wondering what kind of a impact will the school district have now that they're not Gouldings will not be paying taxes?
It'll be an impact on the county, because Gouldings is a significant, centrally assessed taxpayer. And so it'll impact that, and what it does, I mean, specifically with the school district, what it does is it just shifts where the tax burden goes. So individual tax, because the school district with the certified rate program that we use, we'll still be able to collect the amount of revenue that we need. It would just shift where that burden is placed. Losing businesses in San Juan County has a negative impact on the county as a whole.
Right.
Because they take on that some of that tax burden from individual home owners and residents with property tax. So it won't, specifically like financially for the school district, we'll be able to continue, but it will have an impact on the county as a whole.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? No, I didn't realize that Gouldings was centrally assessed. So, what criteria makes them a centrally assessed property?
I would have to, can I get back to you on that and give you a specific?
Yes, because I don't know the answer
I'm not ready
either.
to
That's
answer
the
that,
reason I asked
but I
too.
can get that to you, for
And
sure.
when you say San Juan County, to clarify, you mean the residents of
Yes.
San Juan County, not another entity, but, yeah, just, okay, thanks.
It just shifts where the percentage of tax dollars come from.
Okay.
And you want me to move on to the next one?
Yes, please. We're
Okay.
going to finish these last two, and then we're going to take a break.
All right. This next one will hopefully be really quick. This is just our annual fraud risk assessment. This is not significant. This is not changed at all, actually, from last year. Just a review for the board. Appreciate everybody last year. One of the criteria on our assessment is that all board members complete the introductory school board training that the state auditor's office provides, and you all did that last year, and it's once within the 4 years of your term, so it's not like you have to do it annually. So you've all done that. We have those certificates on file. Appreciate your effort in getting that done. So that allows us to mark that as completed, and so this is the same score we received last year in completing that assessment. And then you've all received the annual ethics pledge, which is part of that fraud risk assessment that you've signed and will return to me, and we'll get that filed too. So if there's any questions on that, I'm happy to help answer them, but that's the same thing that we kind of reviewed last year. And just as a requirement, what I do on my end is I will upload this form to the state auditor's office for us as an entity, and it gets put on there for annually. We have to upload that form and show that we have gone through and completed that. So that's my quick update there. Any questions?
Okay.
No.
Thank you. Mary, do you want to finish number 13?
Sure.
Delegate Assembly.
The Utah School Boards Association pre-delegate assembly and assembly is scheduled this year, which is new, for June 7th and 8th. It's been historically in August, I believe the third week in August, but they moved it up due to changes in the legislature and their scheduling, and be able to get a legislative program scheduled earlier rather than later. So each school district in the state needs to send one person to represent that school district at the delegate assembly. So our school district needs to plan on one of us attending that. I've attended it in the past for our school district. Some of you are alternates. So who's an alternate? Do you remember? Just
Nan is.
Okay. So if you're an alternate, you kind of need to be on standby to serve in that capacity. Anyway, so I don't know if we want to, we are meeting one time before we go, or before this meeting, so we'll have one more meeting. If we want to decide who's going to attend at this meeting, or have this on our radar for the dates and then decide in May, we can do that as well.
Right now, I already had a commitment. I'm sorry. So I for sure cannot be there. So do you want to roll it over to the next meeting and check your calendars? Or does someone want to volunteer?
I could probably do it, but I probably ought to make
Okay.
sure.
So we'll put you
Same.
tentatively until you check. So we'll roll that
Yeah,
on
and
to
then
next
the
month.
thing that is with the alternates too, is if you need to serve as an alternate, but I guess our board could have an alternate.
So, okay,
And I could do it again, it would be my last.
okay.
So
Same.
anyway, I think
Okay.
we've got some options.
So if you'll
Yeah.
check with those
Okay.
two and yourself, all right,
Okay.
perfect.
At least
Okay.
we know we'll send somebody.
Yeah.
All right,
Good.
okay, thank you. We will be back at 6 o'clock.
Maybe they'll be throwing you a big party.
The good work that they do, so we'll start with that. So Mason Lyman, you're first. Come up to the front, you know the drill. You've been here enough, so. Right?
This is one of the great things. Mason was nominated by Aaron Brewer. Aaron says this: dedication to the smooth operation of the district and serving in any way he can. Mason will go to any lengths to ensure the smooth operation of the district and its systems. He spends countless hours behind the scenes in the server rooms, crawl spaces, and ceilings of the buildings in our district to troubleshoot, diagnose, and repair issues. He has a grasp of the technology operations in our district and applies his expertise to everything from internet filtering to replacing critical components of our network. We are lucky to have him, his skills, his capacity to learn new things, as well as his levels of dedication to the staff, students, and faculty members of San Juan School District. Congratulations.
Okay, and our next recipient is Carrie Salee, and he's with our transportation district, or department, sorry. Okay, come on up.
Okay, we have a nomination by Conan Benali from the Transportation Department. And we have an award for Kerry Sally in Transportation. Kerry Sally for his commitment to keeping the transportation shop running smoothly. He takes the time out of his own duties and to be available to assist where it's needed. He is a valuable part of the team and we appreciate all the time he has put in for the transportation in San Juan School District. Congratulations to him.
Thank you for coming. We do appreciate the work that you both do and what all our employees do within our district, and it's a great privilege to honor the work that you do. So we're going to now move to our citizens' comment. And before we do that, if any of you need to make a comment, there's a paper on the back that you will need to fill out, and you can just give it to Eva. And then I'm going to read this statement before we get started. So get our pulpit ready to go for you. Thank you, Erin. The purpose of a San Juan School District Board of Education meeting is for the board to conduct its business in public as provided by law. The San Juan School District Board of Education values and welcomes public comment, so time is allotted in our public meetings for such. However, to maximize its benefit, there must be structure and consistency to the practice. With that in mind, please know that public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Speakers may offer objective criticism of school operations and programs, but complaints about school personnel or other persons will not be allowed. Individuals expressing comments should not expect an immediate response from the board. Please understand that the public comment period is not a debate, an interactive question and answer session, or a dispute resolution forum, but it is an opportunity for you to express your comments, suggestions, and concerns to the board for our information and consideration. A member of the district staff will respond to patrons who request a follow-up meeting or information. So what we'll do is we'll go with our in-person comments first, and then we'll go with our emails, and Eva will end up reading those. So Rich Monson, would you like to come to the pulpit, please? Podium. And we'll set a timer for you, and thank you for being with us. If you don't see it, you will hear it.
Okay. Greetings, everyone. I've been asked to come talk for the San Juan Education Association briefly, mostly to kind of get where we're going with the payroll change. And I guess I've talked to a lot of different members, and I have members that are kind of on both sides, and I figured that would be the case. That being said, before we vote on this, before we change this, it's my ask to you as the board that we get a better representation of what we're looking. A saying that I heard is, if it's not broke, why are we trying to fix it? And so I'm curious as to find out, is this broke? Is this why we're trying to fix it? There's, like I said, there's people on both sides of this. So if there is any possibility that we could do a stakeholder type survey on this to put out, to find out who is interested in this, how many people this would affect in negative, positive way. I don't know the wording on the survey, but I think it would be an appropriate thing to do. We have stakeholder surveys that we send out to parents and different ones. Unfortunately, we all know that sometimes they're not very well responded to, and if we could do something like that, I would do my part to try to help get information back from as many in the district that this would affect. I know it's not just teachers that this affects bus drivers and sweepers and lunch ladies. And so I feel like we need to kind of get input from everyone involved. So that being said, if there's any possible way we could do that, I would be happy to help in any way that I could. I appreciate your time and just wanted to kind of put that out to see if that would be a possibility. And so I have 40 seconds. Thank you. I'm done before my time's up.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm just checking his. Someone from the district office will reach out to you, as that is what you requested. So, okay, thank you. Megan Butler. Oh, there you are.
Hi, I'm short.
You're good. Well, the podium is right in your way,
That's
so.
fine. It's fine. Okay, I just wanted to discuss the same proposal that Rich discussed about having the biweekly payments and just kind of give my opinion about that. I'd like to express my concern for the proposition of having biweekly payments. There are many teachers who are sole earners or the main breadwinner for their families. This includes me. At the beginning of each month, I assume most of us have a mortgage to pay, which is usually $1,000 or more. The Blanding City requires utilities to be paid by the 10th. And if you have any other large expenses, such as car payments and things like that, you still have to eat for 2 weeks to get the second half of your paycheck. One could argue that we could have payment dates change, but like you can go in and change your payments, but that's really difficult to do if anybody's actually had to do it before, and sometimes they can't be changed. I have actually lived on a biweekly payment schedule before. It's very difficult to budget when you are the sole earner of your family. And it might be easier if you're a supplemental income. That might not be a problem for you, but for those, it is not as bad, but many of us need a large sum at the beginning to do their budgets for the month. I think many of us would be living more paycheck to paycheck when the district keeps half of our money for 2 weeks. Depending on the plan, if you could get it, sometimes 1 month it could be on the 8th and the 24th, and even if you did a first and 15th plan, it could be tough to budget for. If it's a question of retention for subs, paras, aides, things like that, I would argue that the best thing to retain employees is to actually pay them more. They deserve more, and that would help people actually stay in the field. And if we actually made it worth it, and to take the money to pay another salary to hire somebody else to do payroll for this, and another newly created district job, and we could take that money and give it to the salaries for these classified employees if that's helpful for them. More newly created district office jobs do not help morale in the schools when we can't get the personnel we need in the school district. So I would recommend some kind of survey to be sent out for the employees, like Rich said, to see their position on this, I would love to see like what their position is, certified versus classified, and what the breakdown would be for that. If like he said, if there's actually a need for it at all. And actually express their thoughts on this before you vote on anything. I didn't even know this was happening, honestly, and it would be nice to have some kind of survey or some kind of say when it affects my livelihood. So that's all I have to say, so if you have any thoughts on that. I guess I did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have Bailey Herring. Oh, there she is.
Sorry, I have to find the right, pull it up here. Okay. To whom it may concern, I come before you today in hopes that your hearts will be open to the concerns of many members of our community. Tonight, you're going to hear many testimonials about policies and procedures and how unjust the process of the drill team hiring program has been. So I'm going to spare you my thoughts on that. I would like to discuss first, I'd like to say that we've lost sight of what's really important, and that is the students of the San Juan School District. More specifically, the handful of girls that are most affected by the decision to not hire Cammie Nielsen as the head coach for the San Juan Royals. I am aware that there were serious problems in the past. This became evident last year when the drill program was canceled altogether. The previous head coach was torn between being a coach and being a mother. She may not have handled every situation the right way, and she definitely made mistakes. It was heartbreaking to see the program crumble. The tears came for weeks, not just from my daughter, but from myself. Everything we had worked so hard for was being ripped away, and it was out of our control. That being said, we wiped our tears and we moved on to cheer, and we had a good experience, and we were thankful to be a part of something. This is a new year with new girls, yet here we are again faced with a crumbling drill program that is once again out of our control due to no fault of these upcoming girls. My heart is broken for these young girls who have worked so hard for so many years for the dream of dancing as a San Juan Royal under the direction of Cammie Nielsen. These girls have been dancing for Cammie for 8+ years. They've developed a strong relationship with her. The love and respect for her is obvious. Each of these girls wanted to be here tonight to fight the good fight on Cammie's behalf. But as you can see here tonight, they are not here. Instead, they are currently at dance practice with Cammie, preparing for their upcoming dance competition. These girls are devoted to Cammie. These girls have a passion for dance that is in their blood. These girls have put in their 10,000 hours. They have pushed through blood, blisters, sprained ankles, and severe health conditions, all for the chance to one day make it to San Juan High and compete with the best 2A schools in Utah. In order to truly compete, we need a coach with years of experience, a coach that has seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. We need a coach that can learn from her mistakes and, given a second chance, will come back stronger than ever. At the end of all this, my feelings don't matter. Your feelings don't matter either. The only feelings that really matter.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I did email it to you.
Yes.
You can finish reading it.
I got it. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Trent. Oh, there you are. You want to come up?
First and foremost, I appreciate everything you guys do. I know there's so much that we don't see behind the scenes. I live it now a lot more than I used to, being in the position that I am. But I would like to express my displeasure with the process employed by the San Juan School District in filling the position of the drill team. As you are aware, the need to fill the position has been apparent for a full 12 months, yet a decision was not reached until the Friday before tryouts, which were Monday of this week. The timeline is unacceptable and has detrimental effects on the students involved. The girls who were considering whether to participate in cheer or drill were unfairly pressured due to the last-minute nature of the decision-making process. Such undue pressure is not conducive into a positive and nurturing learning environment, especially for students who are making important decisions about their extracurricular activities. Furthermore, it is evident that if this were a boys' sport such as football or basketball, such a delay and lack of organization would never have been tolerated. I understand that the drill team does not create the same revenue as those other sports mentioned, but should not be discounted as the importance they have to the students. I want to clarify that this is not at all my dissatisfaction for the coaches that were hired. And I'm going to make that very clear to those people, and I hope they listen to this recording. Ultimately, I just want to emphasize the added stress and challenges that they must be faced as coaches and being thrown into their roles without adequate time to prepare. Additionally, the delay's decision has resulted in cancellations and unavailability of the camps that these girls look forward to and the training opportunities that are typically scheduled months in advance. This deprives the girls, specifically the senior class, of the chance to fully experience the benefit from participation in the drill team. I do not seek an explanation as to why others were not chosen. I wish to highlight the fact that the delays that we're seeing have already and will continue to have unintended consequences. And I want to highlight that I do mean unintended consequences. If it's not too late to rectify the situation and to look at how we can help the drill team, whether that be with extra staff, I urge you to reconsider that and reconsider the hiring process that we saw during this time. And I hope together we can work towards a fair and more transparent process in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Eva, I don't have any more papers, so you can do the last three.
Can you hear me okay? All right, Board President, just for your clarification, 20 minutes ago I handed you a packet. One was read in person by the person who wrote it, so I'm not going to be reading that. One sent a text of retraction, requesting that I not read their letter. And the other requested that the letter be emailed to the board, which I'll send.
Let me see which one that was.
Comments. And you will see that in all of your emails. So the remaining letters that I.
So you have two left?
Two.
Okay. And Eva, you will email that to the board?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Dear Superintendent, this past year I have had the opportunity to be on the San Juan cheer team due to the disbandment of the drill team. It was extremely difficult to accept the fact that I would not be dancing, something that I have worked towards since 3rd grade. But despite my disappointment, I had many good experiences on the cheer team. One particular experience that stands out to me is the presentation you gave at our cheer state dinner. Your emphasis on women's sports, hard work, and girl power left a lasting impression on me. You made us laugh. You gave us examples of obstacles in your life that we could look back on and relate to, and your encouragement to recognize our own worth was truly inspiring. You had us go around the table and say something that we liked about ourselves or something that we were good at. I am a good dancer. You also mentioned how your college cheer team did not make it to nationals one year, but you took 2nd place the next year. This example gave me hope and motivation to work harder, not only at cheer, but also at dance, in the hope of doing drill this upcoming year. I would love to take this opportunity to highlight the role of Cami Nielsen, our coach. Cami has not only improved our skills and technique, but also promoted unity and respect within our team. Her dedication to us and our well-being, both on and off the dance floor, is evident in her actions and teachings. Cami's coaching extends beyond dance. She has made a cohesive team that supports and uplifts one another. Her commitment to our growth and success is unwavering, and she has undoubtedly played a significant role in shaping us into the dancers we are today. You said that your cheer team was like your family, and this dance team right here is like mine. I could not live without them and their support. Cami is like a second mother to all of us. She knows every single one of our strengths and weaknesses. She has taught us to respect each other, to work hard, and to lift each other up. She has a rule in her dance practices that we cannot whisper to each other because someone either feels left out or talked about. This rule was placed to protect us because she genuinely cares about us and how we feel. She has not only offered us insight of the skills and techniques needed to improve our dance career, but also on our character and how we act outside of dance. A good coach not only has to know skill and technique, but also how to make a group of girls with different interests a team who loves and respects each other. Cami Nielsen does both of these things. We know that she loves and truly cares about us. We know that she has the best interest at heart. We know that she will push us until we are the best. She is the reason we are good at what we do. She is the reason we love dance as much as you loved cheer. She is the reason we want to pursue dance outside of high school. Sorry, I'm going to hurry. As we look into the future, I urge you to consider Cami Nielsen as the head drill coach at SJH. Not only do I speak for myself and my teammates in expressing our desire for her leadership, but I also speak for the future generations of girls who will benefit from her guidance and mentorship. Together, we aspire to embody girl power, resilience, and determination. With Cami as our coach, we are confident in
Sorry. I like 10 more lines. Okay.
The next letter is from Lacey Ivins. Hello, thank you for taking the time to read this letter. I would like to discuss the San Juan drill team for a moment. I appreciate our San Juan High School's school administration support and assistance, namely Mr. Barkley Christensen, in advocating to get our drill team back. I am relieved to feel their push for all students to be in activities that our awesome students love and for opportunities to be inclusive in an array of activities. I am happy that the school district reconsidered and pushed forward to have the dance team again at San Juan High. While I don't agree with how this process was handled, what's done is done, and we will only continue to move forward with progress. I would hope this situation would be under careful review to hold it as an example of making sure all sides of the story are heard, that each person can be an advocate for themselves, and when someone is offered a position that it cannot be retracted. As in the real world, if any of these offenses had happened, lawsuits or major repercussions would ensue. If you want a certain program to run a particular way, please make sure that is how all programs are operating. I would ask the school board to reconsider allowing Cami Nielsen to be an assistant on the drill team. These are my daughter's words, who will be an incoming freshman this year, and with whom I wholeheartedly agree with her and would love to have Cami participating in this program. Her daughter states, I have been dancing with Cami for 6 years. I've learned so much from her. I am excited for drill to start. I'm happy about the coaching staff for drill, but I would love it if Cami was on the staff. She would help us accomplish our goals in trying to win. She has been doing dance for a long time, so she has experience with how the dancing world is, especially the drill world. She has gotten some tips from the Desert Hills drill coach that will make her and our team better. I hope you would take this into consideration. Aspen Ivins. Cami will bring experience, drill, connections for assistance to help build our program to what our girls and parents wish and expect it to become, and these girls have had a much respected love for Cami that has been built upon for years. We would respectfully ask for your consideration to allow Cami to assist Coach Lacey and Assistant Coach Riley. We are thrilled to have these new women as our coaches, and we can say with confidence they will be great. Add Cami to this equation, and it's a power drill team coaching staff that the sky will be the limit for these girls. Thank you for your time. Lacey Ivins.
Is there anything else? Okay.
That came in before 6.
Okay, all right. So that ends our citizens' comment. So we're going to go back to our agenda. You're welcome to stay while we finish our discussion, or we can excuse you if you prefer. So, but thank you for being with us. We're going to move to the consent agenda. I'll just give them a minute. Okay. We're going to move to the consent agenda and our action items and information, and then we'll go back to closed session. Nothing in closed session will affect our action items. So I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to accept the consent agenda.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion or questions regarding it?
No.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, let's move down to our possible action items. So the first one will be a motion to proceed. Do you want to say exactly what we should be doing on that motion?
Yeah, you have a couple of options on this one. So you could approve the letter as is. You could also choose to change something in the letter. So if you'd liked part of this authorization is for them because there is going to be some cost to preparing this application with a grant writer. So if you want to approve for them to move forward to write the application with a grant writer, that would be one way we could tweak the letter, and then they could come back at the May board meeting, and you could decide based upon that information if you would like to approve it to move forward for the application. So that's an option. The other option is to approve it the way it is or not approve it at all.
Okay, thank you. So the floor is open for a motion.
I will entertain a motion to accept the school-based mental health services grant.
Okay. Go ahead.
Support.
Okay, letter of support, okay.
Letter.
Motion from Nelson, do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion?
Yes, maybe I missed it, but I didn't realize in the presentation that we were approving money to put into this. So how much, who do we contract with, or who do we work with as grant writing? How much does that cost? Do we have any of the expertise within our school district?
Yeah, so they would work together with a grant writer. We have a variety of people we reach out to that are local that we can use as part of that process. And it just depends on who's available for this grant writing. We have a particular employee who's a former employee who's helped us write grants in the past, but they haven't reached out to anyone to assist in that yet, so I'm not exactly sure who it would be. It's a pretty minimal cost to have them come in and advise on that grant writing.
Okay, when you say minimal, what does minimal mean? Can you clarify?
I don't want to tell you an exact amount because it depends on what they're agreeing to.
Looking for a range?
It could be anywhere from $500 to, Tyrell, what maybe is the most we pay?
My motion was to accept and support the letter. And in our earlier conversation, it was said that we would have Tyrell or Mr. Singer bring this back for a final motion and vote. So we're not at that point yet. This is just a support for them to move on.
We're in the discussion part after the motion and the second. So I was looking for, right now, when we vote on this, then it entails some money, and that was never discussed earlier. I just would like to know the price range and be informed.
I think all that information would come back if we choose to pursue. Is that correct?
Well, no, approving this, you would work with a grant writer.
Right, we would spend the money. So I was just wondering, what does that cost? What's the process like? I'm not criticizing the process. I'm not criticizing the expenditure. I want information because that's what board members, we should have information.
And without knowing, I can probably tell you a range depending on the grant.
Yes, that's
we've
all I'm
spent,
asking for,
but I don't have the exact numbers. I don't know if Tyrell, there's a way for to look that up, that I could give them some exact numbers from previous grants. It depends on how in-depth the application is. I don't know if you can add anything, and then I could give a number if you wanted me to give a range.
Yeah, I don't know specifics. I think in the past, like specifically when we talk about ESSER that paid for some of that, I think we were, it could be anything from a few $100 to a few $1,000s, depending on the extent and how much it is.
Oh, and there's ESSER.
I don't think it would exceed anywhere come close to 10,000. It wouldn't come near that, but that's kind of
okay. That's the information I was asking for. Thank you.
Okay. Did you have a comment? No?
I just need clarification, and then I can go from there. With Nelson making the motion, it's to go with your option, which is continue forward with the grant, but actually not vote on going through with it completely until after the board meeting, which is May 8th.
So how the letter's written is to approve to apply for the grant, and so it is the application of the grant, not just to prepare the application.
Okay.
So if you only want them to prepare the application and then approve to apply for the grant in May, then that would be a different motion. So if we're approving the letter that's here, we would still come back and give you an update in May.
Right.
But you're approving for us to apply for the grant. So not only prepare, but apply. You could amend the letter to say, we're approving for you to prepare the grant, and in our May board meeting, we can choose to apply for the grant. So That's the differentiation. So the current motion that's been put out there is to approve for us to complete the grant process and apply for the grant, and then give the board an update of what that looks like on May 8th.
I guess I had a question about that too. I kind of got the impression that if we're not quite comfortable with the wording of the letter, could I amend that motion to where we decide to move forward with the grant application process, but that we could review the wording of that in the future?
Yes, so you could make a motion saying that you're approving for the district to move ahead with the grant application process and prepare that application and present it to the board in the next board meeting. And at that time, we would have an action item you could approve for us submitting that application.
Okay.
So there you go. Do you want to make an amendment to the motion?
I'd like to make an amendment to the motion, and I still don't quite know how to word it, but I move that we move forward with the grant application process with the ability to review the wording of the letter that we will be signing as a board in the future, at the future board meeting. May. What day is it? May 8th.
Okay.
If nobody seconds that, it's okay.
I have a motion by Nan. Do we have a second for that motion? I have to remember how to do this again. Do we have a second?
Second for the amendment.
Yes, second for the amendment. Do I have a second on that?
I will second the amendment on that.
Okay, so do we have any discussion regarding Nan's amendment?
Yes, I'm confused by the amendment because I understand that to say that we're going to amend the letter, and that would be part of a motion to amend the letter, because the letter is the first part of what we approve, if we approve. And then the grant could be a second part of that, but not necessarily. So
I'm trying to say let's move forward on the grant application, but leave the ability to tweak the wording of the letter to make sure that it says what we want it to say.
Should we need to?
If we need to. We might not, but to add that option to be addressed.
And I agree with just moving forward with it, but amending the letter, we need, that the letter you're referring to is this letter that we have right now. And so there would need to be a motion with the amended language in that letter to then, if we're going to amend the letter, we have to have
I guess I can
amended language.
She's saying amend the letter only if we need to. What she wants to do is move forward.
Yes.
And then if we need to amend the letter, when the grant stuff comes back in May, then we have the option to do so.
Yeah, and amend isn't just if we need to.
If we need to.
Okay, so another question. Does this, I'm misunderstanding the letter possibly then. The letter, it goes in with the grant, or it just allows us to move forward?
It would go in with the grant application. So you could amend the letter at this time just to say, I'd like for the school district to move forward with, for the writing of the, and take out application and full implementation of. Or what Nan is proposing is to say, we're just going to make a motion that we're going to approve for the district to move forward with the grant writing process with an approval on this letter at the May 8th meeting. So.
Okay, that makes sense. Sorry about that.
Okay. Eva, good luck.
I'll be replaying that over and over.
Just talk to Chris
I'm
about
still
what we wanted.
confused,
So,
but
okay, so we need to make, so any more discussion on the amendment? Okay, all in favor on the amendment? Say
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? No. Okay, now we're going back to the original
Main
motion. Now, do we have any more discussion on the original motion?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, sweet, we're done with that one. Whew, that was hard. Okay. We need, number 2, a motion to approve the school land trust amendment for Blanding Elementary School.
And I just want to remind you, there are 2 amendments, proposed amendments, so if your intention is to approve both, you'll need to include that in your motion, to include both amendments.
That's right, okay.
That's 2 and 3, right, Len, on the action?
It's all under number 2. We put both amendments for BES under number 2.
Motion to accept school land trust amendment, Blanding Elementary School, and also Number 3 item, school land trust amendment, Monticello Elementary School.
Wait, actually, no, sorry.
Oh, There's
Oh, wait.
two that are on Blanding Elementary
There's
School.
two amendments, just only with Blanding Elementary.
Two separate items.
So don't do Monticello's with it.
So how do I state that?
If you look at executive content,
I didn't ask for a second or
Re-motion?
anything. No, yeah, just re-motion it.
Okay, I will approve both of the Blanding Elementary School land trust amendment.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, number 3 is the school land trust amendment for Monticello Elementary School. If I can get a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the school land trust amendment for Monticello Elementary School.
Okay, motion by Colleen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. School land trust plans, school year 2025, if I get a motion for that.
I move that we approve the school land trust plans for school year 2024, 2025.
Okay, motion by Nan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
No.
I have, just to, for the record, to maybe have this on the agenda again sometime within the year to see if there's something we can do to be able to see these plans sooner. If there's anything we can do, I mean, I won't be here, but anything all of you can do, or some of you will be here, to understand them better. I feel still a little unprepared because they're just not an easy read, and so as I read through them. But anyway, that's just my wishes. So, go ahead.
Julie or Derek, will you clarify the timeline real quick again?
Well,
So they come to, and it's really kind of tricky for the school level to do it a lot sooner because they're still within the
Yeah.
plans for this year. But we could, if the board chooses in the fall when we set up those dates, we could bump it back a month where we bring a draft to you, the month before, and then it comes to you again in April for approval, and then they would still go to the state in May. We've left that month in there between April and May, so that if there's any revisions, because there have been times when the board has said we'd like them to go back and make revisions, and that gives us some time to do that.
Okay.
So if we do that in May, then we could still have it to the state and then do you by June.
Okay.
And hopefully come back to us, but, we could build that extra month in before, in February or something, if the board chose to do that.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just, if you're conscious of that and look at something, I'm not asking for, to make a change or commit to a change, just, in thinking about it. And anyway, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
I have a question for Julie, though. If we do that in March or February, would that be too much time in between April and making that change between April and May to the end of the year? I mean, because it's going to be a lot of changes anyway, so.
No, as long as schools have that month of May to make changes maybe recommended by the board, that'll be fine.
Okay.
And if we could just do it in March or something, then I think it can still work. It is tricky because they're even in April pretty pushed to get their councils. They're really trying to utilize data throughout the year, and they'll really only be able to look at beginning and mid-year data if we keep pushing things back, but it's okay. It can work.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Our number 5, payroll distribution. Do we have a motion for that?
I will make I would make a motion to do what our employees who've taken the time to come here and give us suggestions and value your opinion, to send out a survey to all of our employees and get that information back. Anyway, it's my motion.
Second.
Okay, second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so I guess it's just a one-question survey. All right, and we can have it by next month? Okay.
Question on that. Should it be a one-question survey, or should it? I mean,
We can.
What all do you
we'll
want to
need
ask?
discuss.
well, I don't know, but I'm not sure, just a one question. Do you want it or do you not? Maybe, do you want it? And if so, how will it help you? If you don't want it, why? Because, you know, today, this side of it hasn't been heard, shared, or even thought of. It didn't cross my
Again, point of
mind in the.
point of order.
We're discussing this topic.
Motion was on the floor, there was a second, and we voted. And there was an open window for
So
discussion.
administration will work on that. They will work on the details. Oh, sorry, yes. All right, and number 6 and 7, I don't see that we have any items for those. So, okay, we are done with our action items. Do you want to do information items? Do you want to do those before we go to close?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Yep, so next board meeting is May 8th, 2024. It's here at the district office with virtual broadcast. And then Snow Makeup Day is no school on April 19th, 2024.
Okay, all right. Now we're going to jump back up and finish our board meeting with our closed session. So we have 2 we need to do, 1 for litigation and 1 for personnel. So we'll have to go into one and come out and then go back into the other one. So I need a motion for the discussion of litigation.
I'll make a motion to go to closed session to discuss litigation.
Yes, motion by Colleen. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Nan, do you want to begin the roll call?
Nan Barton, yes.
Colleen Benelli, yes.
Steve Black, yes.
Lori Mon, yes?
Nelson Yellowman, yes.
Mary Shumway, yes.
Okay. So we'll give you a few minutes. Erin, you just tell us when you're ready. And thank you for coming. We appreciate your input.
Nelson Yellowman, yes.
Lori Mon, yes?
Steve Black, yes.
Colleen Benelli, yes.
Nan